Welcome everyone, this is Evelyn, and this is my channel, Twin Flames 3344, but there are definitely messages here for everyone. I wasn't able to finish everything on the last video, so I'm actually going to start with the Twin Flame read on the table that I left at that time. So we'll start with that so I don't miss it. I'm going to go back to January 6th forward because there's a lot of important information that came up recently, but I do want to go back to December 26th ultimately. So if I have time, I will go back there. If not, I'll try to fit some more of the older messages into my next video. So, and we will roll the die again for you guys, and I'll pull new cards over there. So let's go ahead and you can go ahead and take a couple deep breaths on your own if you'd like to. Okay, let's see what we have for you. So first I'm going to show you the read on the table. Guys, that's from the top. So we have the Ascension deck, the big cards, and then the Rider-Waite minis for clarifiers there. And we're going to roll the die and pull some new cards. But just so you know, the last time I did the video and I pulled these cards for the read or for the video, but it goes with this read. So I'm going to re-pull from this deck, the medicine deck, and roll the die. Let's see what comes up for today for the Twin Flames and for everyone else who may be watching. All right. And today is the 17th, January 17. And I think it's the, oh yeah, we have, so 17 is the star and the day adds up to 27, which is the Ace of Wands. So really beautiful energy today. For the Twin Flames, we have Mars coming up. I always get confused with Mars and Sagittarius with these die. But anyway, we have Mars coming up here. And then we have Leo. And the number 12. The 12 is the Hangman, which is Pisces for me more often is Capricorn actually, which 12 is December, so that works as well. So we have Pisces, Capricorn, Leo, and then Mars, which is Aries energy. Cardinal, fixed, and then Pisces would be mutable. Capricorn is cardinal as well. And I feel like that Leo child is in the middle here. And we did just leave Aries into Pisces as far as the North Node on the 11th, I believe. And the 12 also gives me the 1 and the 2 of the masculine and the feminine, and the 3 that it adds up to, the 1, 2, 3. And actually that came up twice yesterday. The time of something, but it came up again because I noticed it yesterday when it came up that second time. So that 1, 2, 3 jump or leap energy is significant here. All right. Let's see from the medicine deck. Today is Friday, so check out my posts on Instagram. I don't know if they'll be up on TikTok or not this week, but on Instagram, I post them all first on Instagram and then TikTok, and then also on my Twin Flames 3344 Facebook page. So you can check them out in all of those places, but it always goes to Instagram first. So Instagram, I put out a lot of very significant messages recently, so if you can catch any of them, there's a lot of activation there and just beautiful messages. I'm going to bring you today a message from Himiko, a Japanese queen, which I knew nothing about, and now I know something about because she came through in a big way. So I'm going to tell you about her messages, and she came through again yesterday, and she keeps bringing through the word difference. So that is the word of the day for sure. All right. Oh, there we go. That came right out. So funny. And Teddy just went out for a walk. But the dog is coming up here, right? Your loyal friend with the number 14, which is the Temperance card of patience and angels and that higher love energy, right? Balancing with flow back and forth, one step at a time, which that line literally came up this morning, taking it one step at a time. But that loyal, faithful friend. And then we have right next to it popping up the fox. And they're both very dog-like. And the 25 is this year, also the Knight of Wands. And I'm getting cousins. Oh, now the Patty Duke, right? Two of a kind, but they're cousins, right? They're not siblings. And Spirit's connecting with me. But I'm getting the energy too here of Teddy with the cats. Because Teddy always wants to be part of the cat family. So this idea of connecting family that's not necessarily your blood family. And then the 40 card is popping up out of there, which came up this morning too. And 40 is the number of Ea or Enki, which is Poseidon. But it's also the Page of Cups and that dolphin card that was just up, which is a very beautiful, innocent, playful energy. So I'm just going to show you that. And then the bottom of the deck is the squirrel, which is the 26, and that's perfect too. The squirrels came up to the window yesterday, and I gave Teddy his squirrel toy, which is actually, I think, a chipmunk, but they look pretty much the same. So I was showing him his toy is the squirrel that's out there, and he was very cute. And then he left his little squirrel toy by the front door for the squirrel to show them. But this is the 26 is the Page of Wands, and we have the Page of Cups, and they often come up as the twin flames, right? The Page of Fire and the Page of Fire and the Page of Water. And also 26 is my Newton's cradle number. And notice the new in Newton's cradle and the ton, which is 2000 or 2000 years. And actually long ton comes up in my notes as well, which is 2024 and 2020. The reset years and times just came up this morning as well. So there's a lot to cover. A lot of cool stuff came through. All right, so we have, this loyal kind of family of friends. So cute. The two pages and the angel looking out for them. We definitely have foxes in our a fox in our neighborhood too, so it's so cute. And then the otter is underneath that too, which is another curious, innocent energy, but with the 8, which is about strength and power and manifesting dreams, the dance. Just give me a second. I'm just looking at the numbers there. Sagittarius is very strong in those cards as well, and Leo. And we did have Leo come up here. Okay, we'll see where that goes. And beneath that was the blank card. So again, a perfect place for space or a reset there with the swan beneath it. And the swan came up in the medicine deck this week as well. I wrote down a lot of the notes from the book about the swan, so that'll probably come up too. So, but we're starting from this January 6th today, so we'll see where that goes. But first is this read on the table, so we definitely get to it. And let's go ahead and put those cards up front. See if I can get those to stay up. Yep. Okay. So the read on the table was done on the 6th. And let's see. I had cut the deck at 926, which is the Hermit and the Page of Wands, which just came up. And I finished clarifying at 936, which is the 36 is the 10 of Wands, which is the Atlas card. And the major arcana in this read, we have the Tower and Karma, which is the Judgment card in the underlying energies there. And then Indigo and Starseed right in the center, as well as the Star card came up here in the blocks position. We also have in the cards I pulled after the Shadow, which is the Devil card, and Ascension, which is the World. There was 1 Wand, 2 Swords, 3 Pentacles, 2 Cups, which is 12 and 32, which is the Hanging Man and the Journeyman, perhaps hanging out together, or the Wisdom of the Journey. And then the main court cards in the read are the 9 of Wands, which is the Wounded Warrior, the King of Swords, and the King of Cups. And they're right over here. I think I went back a little bit too in the underlying energy farther than I pulled out there. But let's see what we have here. As far as the numbers, we had double ones, double twos, double fours, double fives, and double sevens. All right. So we have the 11, which is Justice. 22 is the Fool. 44 is my Hercules energy, as opposed to the masculine Atlas, the more social worker side of the feminine Hercules, her Hercules, her harvest. And that's also the 4 of Cups card. And then the 55 is the Ace of Swords, the Truth. And Excalibur comes up with that as well. And then 77, which is the 9 of Pentacles, the Sovereign energy. So a lot of important doubles came up right there. And also 12 of the Hangman, 45 of the 5 of Cups, 24 of the Queen of Wands, and then 57 of the 3 of Swords. So there's some sadness there with the 3 of Swords and the 5 of Cups. And then we have 9, 10, begin again. And again, this idea of reset. And then 79, which for me is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's kind of a graduation point. So the code line here is all about the number 16. It came up from 9, 2, and 5. And there's the 25 in there again, too. But I'm thinking of, what's the code for silver? I don't know if it's 925 or 125, I forget. But anyway, that was coming up. So maybe silver's coming up for a reason. And what was that? There was something important. Look up Silv. Well, I actually have it open right here. Let me look up. This came up a while back, too. I don't know if I'm going to find what I'm looking for. So let me just see if it comes up. Oh, yeah. So with silver and Silv, the forest comes up, which you wouldn't think of with silver. And again, silver is associated with the feminine energy. And again, the mother and the planet and the forest. Seeing the forest through the trees. The code line here with number 16, which is the Tower. So that's about sudden events. And most people associate that with something negative. It doesn't have to be. It could be a surprise or something like that, you know, that kind of throws you off balance. The code line messages came up as the top dog with a heart of 9. And it's interesting that the dog came up today. Top dog, which can represent God. A heart and 9, which is the Hermit. The Master. So again, all of these kind of different labels for what source might be. Top dog, a heart, 9, Hermit, Master, and then the 0 point field came up right there. 2 of Cups is the 1-to-1 energy, or 2 of the Sea. The Starseed, flash of light from the Mary Magdalene cave, which in the SIRIAN Starseed deck is like a cave up above, like kind of a group down below in robes doing some kind of ceremony. And she has all these crystals in her cave with her, trying to piece them together, but they're all broken. And someone might mistake a flash of light coming from the Mary Magdalene cave as lightning. And again, there's that tower energy and that aha moment. So Digamma, twin flame energy was coming up here with the Hermit, Master O. I think there is a Master O. I'm not sure who that might be, though. But you guys can let me know in the comments if you know. It just sounds familiar to me. I'm not real familiar with it, though. Master O. I know I am, but I can't remember. And again, O is my symbol for the human embodiment of source, right? So it's literally a human being. And they use that in remote viewing too, like the circle represents a human. or a living being. The 2 of sea and starseed, which is the Fool, with a brilliant idea and a flash of light, with the number 50 coming up here, and twin flames, digamma crystals, or Christ-like. So interesting, I talked about her flash of light or inspiration or insight coming up as lightning. So they're associating Mary Magdalene to being Christ-like, right? The 2 different perspectives. The twin flame masters within, O2 and over C is coming up like a math problem. O2 over C, but that can also represent oxygen over water or salt water, or 2 divided by the sea. Oh, that's interesting too, because that'll come up. And the starseed to love. I was just coming up. What movie is that where he says to her, oh, is it Something's Gotta Give? Yeah, where he says, a woman to love. And she's like, what's that supposed to mean? A starseed to love. To go out to sea is to master primordial waters and go back to the womb. Lovers out in the cold, longing to expand in manifestation. So that was all coming up from the messages from the code line and the tower energy. So again, the tower itself card is like blowing your mind, blowing your top. You know, you could be throwing a temper tantrum, but also a huge spark of inspiration, or literally lightning hits, you know. It can represent the fires. It can represent the war. I mean, there's lots of different things the tower can represent in the collective energy here. As we start this message, it starts at 10:08, which is 10 and 8, which is of 18, which is Chai, C-H-A-I. And we start with the 9 of Wands reversed. So the wounded warrior reversed is surrendering. And along with underneath that is the 2 of Swords reversed with the Ace of Wands upright, which is today's energy. The 4 of Wands reversed, the Tower upright, and then Karma reversed. So we have the Tower and the underlying energy as well as the code line. So clearly new passion for instability, no home, or sudden events and poor judgment as the wounded warrior surrenders after breaking a commitment, with the Knight of Swords reversed, without a choice, no longer floating on air, ignited by instability with a sudden event of poor judgment perhaps, and freed to surrender without option. So that came up yesterday too, the idea of surrender, right? So, and I was listening to Bashar. I've listened to a few of his videos in the past couple weeks. And he was talking about something that had already come up in my notes. So, of course, I connect with that. And, you know, in trying to speed up evolution, he was talking about on the video I watched yesterday about the reason for things like Hitler would be his higher soul wanting to come in to make great change. But when you come into the human body, then you get lost in the ego and forget who you are. So it may not come in the same way as like where Hitler ends up killing many people, the way Jesus came in a different way, only ends up killing himself. So it was very interesting, as Spirit's connecting with me, that sometimes these traumatic events are seen as being able to bring change or evolution in quicker. So it's actually something supposed to be positive because it makes you look at something that hadn't been looked at that needed to change. So, right, so here's this clearly a new passion for instability or change, right? Change is the instability between stabilities, right? So while you have the numbers as odd numbers and then even numbers, right? Because there's change in the odd numbers, going from 1, the masculine, to 2, the feminine, who brings balance. And then 3 is expanding socially, right? To find happiness or joy. And then going to 4 of the home and stability again. And then the 5 of change and freedom and fun, going to the 6 of family, again, pulling you back into stability again. And then the 7 of going within, that kind of change, right? To it's the calm before the storm, right? It forces you to go within in order to kind of, it's the momentum that then causes you to explode with power in the 8 number. Again, bringing back stability and, creating your dreams. And of course, 8 is referenced by sports and big business and all of those powerful institutions. And then, of course, 9 goes into the ending cycle, which is also then the in-between state, or the odd number throwing you off balance in order to clean your house, in order to get ready for the new cycle. So there may be poor judgment, but it could be any sudden event here. And remember, I told you on the last video that the 2 of Wands card I had found on the floor next to the table, and it hadn't fallen off, but I hadn't seen it. I'm like, how could I have not seen it, right? Because I'm going back and forth past that spot all the time. But it definitely wanted to come out and be seen, and it was upright. And that was at 12:21 on the 6th. So the Magician reversed with the Emperor reversed, right? That's not the kind of energy you want to be around, right? That could be really kind of evil energy. Or narcissistic energy, right? Abusing power and using manipulation for power reasons. But they're both coming up together in the energies there. And that was that's beneath the ones I told you about underneath. So this is still the underlying energy. But those two in uncomfortable emotions, with the Queen of Pentacles reversed, again, all ungrounded energy, kind of that in-between state again. And the leader abusing their power, not leaving her alone perhaps when he had the chance. With Scorpio upright, but then Aquarius, Taurus, Gemini, and Aries all reversed. Karma's a bitch came up. Don't mess with a mother. In the recent past is the 2 of Pentacles reversed, tripped up or needing to surrender to all that is. The Empress upright at night, weathering the storm, with the Queen of Wands upright in a twist of fate, and perhaps near death or just exhausted, and assessing worth of a treasure. The Hermit reversed, losing their mind, coming out suddenly, blindsided post-war, and the Page of Pentacles reversed in need of help, or a missed opportunity there. And the Page of Pentacles reversed too could be someone who's an opportunist. That's very childlike, immature energy. The foundation is the King of Swords upright, in the pursuit of the love felt in awakening and rising above. I just wrote something about rising above. To fly below is to rise above. That was the quote that just came up prior to the video. The central energy is the indigo reverse, refusing or receiving a proposal, perhaps changing course or a plan, as some may be the 2 of Cups upright 1-1, and perhaps that 1-1 time would make them happy, needing to swallow their pride and make amends, a present perhaps, to come out of the Batcave and be present, or the gift, as the challenge is the Starseed reverse, knocked for a loop, or foolish behavior that got them in some trouble, or split in a heated exchange. With the High Priestess reversed, which also could be the higher self in this deck, reversed, with a secret passion. But there could be some behavior that got you or them in trouble. And now present is the 7 of Swords reversed, coming clean or cleaning up the act after my pen started running out here. After the King of Pentacles and the 10 of Pentacles, and they're both upright together, which is powerful abundance energy, right? But he's cleaning up the act and the family, right? After having achieved the ultimate goals, the King of Pentacles and the 10 of Pentacles. Now going back and cleaning up any tainted energy that's associated with that, perhaps, and then hits the jackpot. But at the workplace, tempted by the devil, and the angel. And that always takes me to Animal House with the devil and the angel on each shoulder. The King of Cups reversed is over it with the Queen of Cups reversed, and the King of Swords upright in a breakup and clearly jealous or making a fool of themselves in front of their lover, as my new pen came in right there. That was the exchange or shift right there. Soon here at 11:05 is the Ten of Cups reversed, an unhappy family and emotional ending with new passion of the King of Wands reversed for the Page of Cups upright, and the Nine of Pentacles reversed with the Nine of Wands reversed, which can represent a dependent person or someone who feels powerless, and the Nine of Wands, wounded warrior surrendering with bad influences around, or there could be puppy love there as well. And the end of an emotional cycle. But remember, the King of Wands reversed could represent the Emperor reversed as well, in that fiery energy reversed, which is not good unless, they're just sick or tired. They could be physically abusive too. Or a wife or child, perhaps who had a child, or a new pet in the family. As the twin flames are seeing themselves as the King of Cups reversed, with conditions of love perhaps, or perhaps feeling emotionally detached or over emotional, probably, perhaps depressed. There may be some burden with Atlas and the weight of the world, with the Queen of Swords reversed and the Page of Swords upright. Perhaps an injured or hurt mother with child, or feeling burdened thinking he'll leave the Queen of Swords reversed, widowed with child. An unstable home and a need to start over or move to a sunny place where all that glitters is gold. Around the twins are how they're seen at 11:21, which is justice and the world, is the Four of Pentacles reversed, or the divine masculine's heart that opens up, rowing away from a dramatic scene, or just like a dramatic scene in a movie, just waiting now to get back to the Six of Cups upright with good news, victorious, to do practical work with the Knight of Pentacles reversed, who may not be able to function or is just that can be a disability as well, but it can be seen as laziness or just being still. And the Five of Pentacles reverse, which is recovering from something practical or physical. Those who can't function or recovering with them, suffering in silence, or a sister, or stressed out and can't sleep at night. The block here is the Star upright of dreams come true and healing. After dropping the facade is the Knight of Wands upright and rushing in to save the day, or perhaps a hit and run. As the Five of Pentacles reversed is coming out of the Mary Magdalene cave after sharing or settling out with the Ten of Cups reversed to end an emotional cycle or move to peace, away from weakness, illness, even blissfulness or delusional, the lover's bliss of preparing for dreams to come true, and the injustice of the Page of Wands upright, inspired to complete a cycle or journey in order to get closure and see another way and be still. Done growth for now, so they may have gone through a big growth spurt, or you may have. Assessing worth at the E Tower, which is the feminine energy, needing to break through the rock in the shadows, and the world being upside down, unable to ascend. The Queen of Swords reversed, the Emperor reversed, perhaps weak getting over a loss or regret. The Lovers upright and the Sun upright and the Moon upright, right? Where the lovers rise and set basically in each other's eyes. The lovers, the sun, the moon, rise and set in peaceful waters. And Moby Dick had come up there too. And it ended here at 12:10, which is the Hanging Man and the Wheel of Fortune, as wisdom prevails. Okay, so on the 7th, I'm just going to pick out some phrases off the page that were important to come up, because I was doing a lot of translating of my channeling messages. So no matter what was coming up here, and remember 1/7 was that completion point of a birth from 4/9/2024, which actually was Ramadan, and exactly 39 weeks to 1/7, which has always come up as Jesus's birthday, but also is coming up as a second coming at this point. But then it was shown as being 20 days early, which was December 18th, which was our alignment with the galactic center, which is very significant. So also difference machine came up here in Japanese when I was translating, And I wanted to bring up difference because in translating for Himiko, my messages in the past 2 days, there was she's constantly saying the word difference. Okay, our differences, and right, and enjoying each other's differences. We were what we are. Again, difference machine. Oh, different grades. Grades have come up too, like the difference between elementary school and junior high and high school, right? Graduating to different levels. You don't go back to, and this came out with Bashar too, you don't go back to zero again because there's always the past lives that you've learned from. So the spiral keeps going up and up and up. And then the 7th that day was literally coming up as 717. With the 17, right? It was the 7th and 17 were the numbers for that day on 1/7. Let's see here. So I had pulled cards from that medicine deck that I was just showing you. And the 52 Black Panther had come up in the underlying energy, with the first card out being the 51, which is the King and Queen of Swords as well, the Jaguar. The Black Panther and the Jaguar. And then right after that, the Elephant came out in the underlying energy with the Wolf, number 15, coming out. 15 came up as significantly too today. Right? So 15 is the devil, which represents the shadow side of things, right? The things that we're chained to in our addictions, things that we need to rise above. But notice that the density of 13, 14, 15 is supposed to be the Trinity. And so then 15 would be the ultimate Godhead. So it was interesting the way that came up. But the Elephant and the Wolf came up here. And after Sophia in the underlying energies, the 17, again, the day's number was 17 and the star. And here coming up as the block. After Sophia and the 17 of the mountain lion, the 24 of the crow, the 45 of the blue heron, and the 39 of the swan, and then also the 51 of the jaguar, and the elephant on top. After your divine feminine with the 6 of the snake, which is the nest, and the 27 of the dragonfly, which could represent the front door as well. And today's that 27 energy. The 19 of the buffalo sun, the 42 of the bat that flies in. You or divine feminine, nesting with the snake. And again, we're going into the snake year on the 29th, which represents Hydra. Nesting with the eggs of the family with new passion for 2 as 1. The buffalo sun enters, but follows for 1-to-1 time. And then prayer and rebirth were coming up with that. So yeah, 27. And today's the 27. So my dad was born in 1927. And and 1942 was coming up here. My father would have been 15 at that point, which I just brought up 15. And then today adds up to 27. The Ace of Wands, but 27 is also my Queen's Gambit number, right? Where it's her choice. She puts out a little temptation or a pawn to get the king's attention. So Sophia with the 17 of the mountain lion, the stars of the show, as the Queen of Wands is the crow obsessed with their shadow. As the mother calls out from the mountain. The 45 of the blue heron, self-reflection, emerges from the unseen worlds, or right field, or comes up for air after too much self-reflection like the crow. Obsessed with shadow work, the snake lion bird, which is the energy of Hydra. It's not just the snake, it has other animals assigned to it as well. It comes out to see how the lovely swan and the agile jaguar reflect them and how beautiful they are, right? So seeing yourself and your children kind of energy. Or mama sees herself in lovely swan, but not the agile jaguar, and that makes them sad, even if the mother does um, or is hard on them for getting on their nerves. Or mama is Sophia and the mountain lion is the lovely sun talking, and the crow is the very physical one. Or daughter perhaps, who's always alone looking at their shadow. Maybe the other three are the little ones, and the 45 blue heron feels like the ugly duckling compared to their twin. And, or one of them feels like a third wheel, or just learning to know their own power. And one now is rendered calm. The elephant literally means the big gift of breath, the temple of the breath. The elephant's nose is the temple of the breath, the nose and lungs, LFNT, left at the right angle of digamma twin flames, back and forth across twin bridges to T, or top dog. Fun, having fun within the light, with FN there. FN means to become weak in Egyptian and Lord in Gothic, or fortnight within the long ton, which I told you is 2,024 pounds, which also Bashar was talking about that being a reset year. 2 week and 14 days from long ton to new ton, 2 and 000 suns. So again, the Newton's cradle is the 3 balls in the middle. You pick up one, right, and it hits the 3 in the middle and vibrates through to the other one, which then reacts. 1 with the help of 3 can knock 1 loose, or even the help of 4 can knock 1 loose and move exponentially. Heard it through the grapevine, the 6th degree of separation. If you tell 3 or 4, the 6th is sure to find out. Or only one of 4 is bound to react the same way you do, or in reaction to what you said or did. The one farthest away will feel your play the greatest. So there's that energy of the rubber band and stretching it really far in distance. And it took me back to realizing the positions of me and my children at certain points. And I've told you this before, when my son moved out to Missouri and my daughter was still at school, we were literally the exact miles apart from each other. Like me in Philadelphia to Missouri, and then Missouri to Phoenix were exactly the same miles, and in this certain kind of triangle. And so I kind of, and then I looked as we each moved how it created new triangles. Anyway, you can look into that for yourself to see what might come up for you there. So if you tell the 4, the 6 is bound to find out. If you tell the emperor, the family, if you tell the emperor, the family is bound to find out. So the wolf is the devil, and the 15, the wolf howling here, represented by the dog star Sirius, the clan of ancient teachers. You requested the tribe's greatest teacher. All teach, and perhaps as the wolf howls at the moon, you will actually become the moon. And so much about the moon came up in the past couple days, which you'll see when I get to that point. So who at Sirius perhaps to contact, as I'm doing a Sirius deck read here. As then Mary Magdalene came out with El Moria, which is 35 and 44. 35 is the wounded warrior, 44 is that Hercules energy, like I said, or the social worker. As the first card out here was Archangel Metatron, number 28, and Mother Mary with her aquamarine mantle, 52. And for me, there was one point where 44 and 52 came up as Athena and her alias. So the Queen of Swords always comes up as Lady Liberty, and 44 is Hercules, her masculine alias, come up as one and the same person. Okay, so The Wounded Warriors, Mary Magdalene Harvest, and there's that WWMM of the Rolling Stone, WME3. And then Archangel, Twin Flame Liberty was coming up there. Athena and Hercules, her harvest at hello was coming up. And then Hina means joy or Joya, so Gaia was coming up there too. Alive Mother, happiness, joy, peace of mind, all comes up with the word henna. And henna is also H, which is 1 to 1. And remember, 1 is just 2 dots in an arc, which is actually an arc, not a straight line. So 1 to 1 with the dash in the middle is literally, or the H, is literally salt. It's the circle with the line across. And then Ina, 1 to 1 with 1, or in. Ina is I in Arabic and in Kakbarok, and here in Hawaiian. And mother in Azerbaijani, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. And then woman in Bosnian. Others in Chichua, and 1 in Danish. Latin is 100. Romani is 9, and then Urdu is Anna. Also Hindi is Anna. And Anna came up a lot too, because Anna is 1 and not 1. A-N and N-A. And it came up as pen in Sundanese and soak as well in Sapiti. So 1 to 1, 100, and then 1 to 1, 9 came up. Kind of like that 1 to 9 energy, or 1 to 100 energy, and then 1 to 1 of Anna, of 1 and not 1. The circle with the line across, which is the symbol for salt, which is also H. And again, the energy of Eve and Adam with the Christed, or twin bridges, between them. The temple of the High Priestess, HP, which is also the horsepower, of 144 turns of the water wheel, to ED, which is temple earth. And then An is water from Sumerian, and also can mean semen. So the 144 plus is also the energy of 1111 with an arrow going through it, which ends up being 2 circles together like an infinity with the arrow going through it, which then creates 2 hearts joined as 1. And also the M comes up as in Pleiadian, their god is a she god, which is Imana. And that came up yesterday again too, and this is on the 7th. As one side being Imana, and the cord from source to man. So M also is 1v1, which is co-creation. He triggers her nature, she nurtures his triggers. So again, a lot more coming up about Athena, which is A to the nth degree, and then Ina, which is 1. And A is 1, right? So again, the 1 and the not 1. It's all reflection. And with Athena, that's when Annika came, Anehka came up, which is goose, and then Aneta came up, which is a net. But Annika came up, which also came up as one of the 3, what are they called in Hindu? And Annika is the dog who lives in the back of our yard. So that word Annika has been coming up a lot as well. So Anna and Annika. And Ka is the soul. So at a 752, which 52 is 7, so it would be written that way, 52/7, is the Chariot and the Queen of Swords as the underlying energy of the Cracker, which is like fireworks, and then the first card out, which was the 33 of the Unicorn. After the 25 of the Phoenix, and beneath that was the 9 of the Eagle, which the Eagle and the Phoenix create the cross, right? The vertical pillar of the Phoenix rising and the Eagle soaring horizontally. And then we have the 33 of the Unicorn, which is you, Nick, or night. And the night with a K. And right, Nick is nothingness. I mean, it can be the name Nick, but it means nothing. And then the capital N is for me is the energy of the twin bridges, not just going across one way, but being open in both directions. And also the N can represent the gamma wave energy. The eagle, number 3, remember the number 3 literally is an eagle flying. Beware of the 36 spiraling around, which is the energy of Atlas, which can represent the one who carries the weight of the world, or the map. The world is escorted by the moon cycles, transitioning to gold, and the moon will come up as a reset point, and we'll get into that in detail. The nature of the planet, the moon, and the gold. And gold literally is like God is toi. I showed you that before. Gold is toll, right? The toll you pay at the bridge. The eagle's map of 2 and 1's transition. 2 as 1 dance as the 8 of the dragonfly with a beautiful mind, where the first out here was abundance, which is 5 hands together, which looks like the shutter of the camera or the eyes, right? The eyes are shutters of camera, but in opposite directions. Just like a hovercraft, the motors spin in opposite directions, right, to keep it hovered, so it's not moving, but then can propel it forward as well. One for all and all for one, in a wake-up call to marriage, as the fool is hanging out with their best friend at Lover's Leap in the moonlight, the love light with the stars above, the mountain retreat, the 22, which is the 5D station, the Queen of Wands with patience, with the cedars, and the 5D double bladder, hourglass. So Vesica Pisces is a double bladder. The fish has a double bladder, which allows them to stay near the surface or go down deep, depending on how much air is in the second bladder. It's the same thing with the hourglass, right? When it's half full, there's more air in part of it, and each section can have different percentages of sand and air. So then I was getting the bladder and the uterus together, right, in a human, which because the masculine doesn't have a uterus. The 7 key to the boomerang and excitement, the mother with the weight of the world, to completion and transition with the number 81, which in the numerology book, the Divine Triangle, is the completion point. And 2025 being the Christ consciousness bridge of the lovers to align and soar to 81 or completion. And again, the energy from 2012 to 218, and then 17 to 22 are coming up as different cycles, 24/7. And the 33 of the 2 eagles flying together, of the unicorns and the rainbow bridge. 33 is also the Christ consciousness. It represents the Christ energy. The twin eagles spiraling together, 2 as 1, transitioning. So the dragonfly is like the eagles spiraling. 2 as 1, transition infinitely as 1. 2 have space between them, 1 to 1, with 81 to 81. And then 7-2 is coming up with 22 in the 5D station. The Fool's Leap, remember today's the 27th, so 7-2 is the reflection of that. Instead of the Lover's Leap, the Fool's Leap, 4 to 7 to the sweet spot. So 4 to 7 averages just above the center, right towards the light, as the 33 whispering bench or arc, cruising with Ben and animals, no ahs or Noah, no ahs about it. And then again, I get my arc with the 3.14 on one side and pi on the other side are the flags of the ship. I don't have a good representation here, but anyway, just the drawings I have down here to show you what I was sketching. All right, so it came into this. So this is my little arc ship made out of the Taurus and the trident of Poseidon's fork, so to speak. And here's like the flags of 3.14 and pi, which reflects that on the other side. And just the symbols that were coming up with the unicorn. And then going into this whole display here, which I'm going to go into now. So as the crow flies, it's just the energy of what's the shortest distance between 2 points, right? It's the hypotenuse as opposed to the right angle. And the electromagnetic field isn't opposite from each other. They're perpendicular, right? We have the X line and the Y line. It's actually Z, right? So Z and Y are actually the electric and magnetic, but then the Y is the movement, the momentum, so whatever triggers it to travel in a certain direction. So the energy of the rainbow bridge, right? You always see the rainbow as half of a rainbow, right? Because the other half you can't see under the planet or behind the planet. And it comes up as the rainbow of colors that you can see within the human spectrum. And then the rainbow colors beneath is the idea there of what you can't see, or when you go into the etheric realms and reset at night. So the unicorn also is coming up as representative of the Hydra. The Hydra M83 looks like two horseshoes holding hands. Kind of like two, it's not exactly omega, it's more horseshoes without the, the lines at the bottom. But the energy of Hydra, and then the N of the twin bridges, and then the IC of the Intergalactic Federation, the O of the human embodiment of source, and then the RN of that energy of nursing. But also R for me is open house, and the N is the Christ consciousness, the Christed bridge, or the twin bridges that are open up in both directions, right? Not just being able to remote view or get out there, but also to be able to come back the other way. And that would represent, right, ETs coming in to our field. So we have this circle rainbow, right, which I posted this on my Instagram too, so you can look at better representations of this stuff, perhaps to better understand. But if you take that circle rainbow and then you take the square of the L representing the right triangle, but also the L of lambda, not that that's a symbol lambda, but the L of lambda, because that represents lamb to father, like the Christed bridge, Christ to Ed. So we have the L, and then the gamma used to be written like a 7, the opposite direction that you'd see it now, which is forward. You have the L and the 7, but a straight 7, which is the gamma, that come together to make this square. And then you get this energy of momentum that comes from the center of the right triangle or the graph, right? And then also coming from the opposite direction from the gamma symbol from up top. As the crow flies, it's like as you circle around in opposite directions, all right? So you have the circle here, right? So as one, and I don't know which direction, it doesn't really matter to me here for example purposes, but as one flies over the bridge in this direction and one tunnels through in this direction, as they hit their points at the end, this channel automatically opens up. It's like that 0 point channel, right? One starts at the root, one starts at the crown. And when they achieve their goal, they instantly connect by staying connected to source, that instant connection. So again, the lambda leap and the gamma wave. Lamb to father, and gamma is gay or happy mother wave. And hello is coming up there too, right? The H is the 1-to-1. The E is the capital E is the temple. And then 11 and then O of the human embodiment of source. 1-to-1 in the temple, aligned as human embodiment of source. And I did a post on that, so you'll recognize the picture I just showed you. So you can check that out. All right, so now we have a message of the day, and this was on the 8th. So let me get that picture for you. So this is the animal deck and messages of love. And then it's a Rider-Waite deck made of Philadelphia. And my daughter bought it for me from the Philadelphia Museum. It's really cool. So this is the picture of those decks and what I pulled. On the left is the underlying energies pulled out so you can see. And then the cards that came out organically, okay, for each deck. So this is that message. They were pulled on the 8th at 9, 17, 18, and 19, which is the star, the moon, and the sun. Interesting. As the underlying energies were the unicorn, and then obstacles, and then the chariot reversed. The cards that came out were the gazelle, with the sea serpent, lizard, and firefly, and then the raccoon. And then the card that came out in the second deck was regret, with acceptance, twin flame, and then rejection and leap of faith. So it's like, hello, Nat, and Nat just arrived, which means something's unforgettable. Hello, Nat, you've been coming up a lot this week. So some kind of regret, but what comes out is the acceptance of the twin flame and rejection in a leap of faith. So two separate little pockets right there. And then the star reversed, which is a need to heal, or it could be some depression, with the 4 of Cups upright, the 10 of Swords upright, and the 9 of Cups upright. So the snake, or that cobra energy, on high alert, keeping watch or peering at the peacock and the unicorn. And again, that would be someone, the peacock, who likes to be seen. And a unicorn can represent a huge, internet company as well. Or one co-RN, right? 2 that help people, or nurses. Or co-Ps, which actually is my maiden name is Cope, and my brothers in wrestling were always called Copey. So there's that energy, and I'm getting the energy of ease with the Ps. So co-Ps, which is the 2 peas in a pod. And for whatever reason, FICO, Pico, and cuneiform were coming up, and corn. After the B, be a hawk, or Bia, which could be someone's nickname. Behave, or be sting. The beaver seeds, or the beaver sends the hawk to bear to clear the air. The builder searches for a bigger version of themselves, to trigger the fish out of the water, to shock them into jumping up, or to taking that leap as the snake watches, or peer-reviewed journal, or beaver is getting the bear to get the stingray to turn them on, or activate them, or tainting the waters. And then Aaron Brockovich came up. Watch what happens next as the peacock and the unicorn saw everything. So again, someone might be getting caught. Co-Ps and one horn, one with growth from crown, or soft plums, and other drilling it in at the forehead. Or I'm getting this energy of something foreseen. And again, the fortnight is coming up again too. The Kundalini has crowned and taking the time to look around after being the fish out of water, seeing who they've become. Or a cobra with Pico or some unicorn company, as quote-unquote bra comes from forearm being shorter than the upper arm, or one of 2 vectors describing quantum states in mechanics. The rho vector, or the other column, ket. Bra is also bro, friend, mate, or arrow, arm, dear, good, fine, and well, and royal prefix, brave brother. As co-bra, our brothers or vectors, arms, friends, right? Brothers in arms, friends, arrows, co-braces of good health. Where the gazelle comes out here with the gaze of the L, or Princess Grace came up there. The peacock and unicorn co-RNs, or peacock and eunuch RN. And Munich could be coming up there too. And actually the music hall in Munich came up. I forget what its nickname is. That should come up in my notes too. So sea serpent or sea serpent or chase tail, as Liz came up with firefly, and that could be lizard as well with firefly, perhaps flying in LA or perhaps to someone's house, and the raccoon curled up waiting for their mother to come home. The underlying energy of obstacles after time apart, longing secretly for you. It is safe to trust in the situation where unhealed wounds are blocking forward movement. The regret with someone that feels remorse for the way they treated you, and the acceptance with the twin flame that everything happens for a reason, that this is a divine counterpart connection. The rejection or leap is divine protection, and it's safe now to make the move you're considering. The underlying energy of the chariot reversed, and the one or the first card is the star reversed after the Fool upright and the Six of Wands upright with reputation. The Page of Pentacles needs help, perhaps an employee or new opportunity, or Piggy in a penitentiary. And the Six of Wands is a security guard. At 10:39, the helicopter came really close. And 10:39 is the Wheel of Fortune or Libra energy for me, and the Knight of Cups. Keeping a watchful eye from prison with the Three of Cups in a cheesesteak dance, or perhaps somebody's new job of deliverance, while the bus is parked or breaking things down, not driving yet, needing to heal, or Princess Grace in need of wheels, or depressed, as Aries is upright and then Cancer reversed with Aquarius both upright and reversed, regrets being judgmental or depressed about a decision with Graceful Gazelle, grounding and integrating haven't eaten too much while traveling, or gastritis, or in pain, or back pain, or getting a massage, or just on pins and needles about getting their wish, and another grand spread. So then the Age of Adeline, the movie came up, and the name Adeline, which I also posted on Instagram. But it was interesting because I watched the movie again, and I was guided to note down some of the details about what happened to her, because like there's the announcer basically describing what's actually happened to her when she gets hurt. And her birth, it was supposed to be December 31st, 1914. I kept writing 2014, but it was 1914. And she was in a taxi from San Francisco to in Chinatown, which actually, that's funny because that came up in one of my translations this week. I think it was Chiamato. But in a taxi from San Francisco Chinatown to Marin, Adele Bowman, and that was the time of the big earthquake of San Francisco, which demolished the city. She was born on January 1st. So of course that would have been, I think she was the first child born on the 1st. So of course that would have brought her some notary because everyone ends up finding out about the first child born for the year. So she ends up dying, and I'm looking at the times where I stopped the movie for these things too, because it went from like 1, 2, 3, 4, shut the door, and then in the movie was 1:36:36, which is Atlas twice, so twin Atlases, and that leap. It had snowed in Sonoma County, and this is from the movie, and the truck hit her car, and at last, at the age of 107, Adeline Bowman was finally dead. Her core temperature went down to 87. Oh, interesting, right? Because 107, as we were just on January 7th. We were just talking about it yesterday. And 87 is the, right, from 1987 is the precession of the equinoxes. And then she was defibrillated the second time to get her out of it with 750 volts of electricity. So again, there's something about the description of what happened to her and how she became ageless and then not ageless. That's real, right, going forward. So a stray meteor, this is the way they described it, a stray meteor hit the moon in 1178, and extreme tides in every lunar phase in a location in Argentina. Oh, that's interesting, right? Matthias in Argentina at the South Pole. 23% rise in the mean tide this night produced a storm 2,000 miles off the Pacific coast, a molecular ionization in the atmosphere. In the first time in 78 years, it snowed in this part of Sonoma County. Hypothermia set in, down to 1 to 2 breaths per minute, or suspended animation, which I talk about that all the time too. So 10:07 p.m., right? So we have 1:07 and 10:07. At again 87 degrees, the heart stopped. At 10:09, the paramedics defibrillated. So I talked about her being dead both times, 2 minutes. And the telomeres in the genes regain their pliability. The comet Della C in 1981 did return a half a century late, but as bright and magnificent as he had predicted. Yeah, and it's interesting. So Adeline breaks up to AD, or after death, E arc. And then A to go out in E. So one side comes up as Adam and the other like Eve. And in Adeline is Delin, or to delineate, to outline or mark something out. 1915 to 2022 were the years that she was alive. I think it happened around age 37. I'm not positive, though. You'd have to go back and see that. So Adeline comes up as Adam's Delin, or delineation of Eve, Bloom's fate in, again, between Adam and Eve, the world between them, God between them, to delve in, to share, Adam to go out in E, to bloom one's fate, share, word, unit, to give, day pretty down until, to dig and delve into the age of Adeline. And again, the energy of the E line, the Eve line, the after death Eve line. And then Thursday came up. I posted Thursday as Ur's Day, as in Mesopotamia. And Carol King came up too. Let's see here. Camelback Mountain came up here as well on the 9th. And 11 Wands. There is no 11 of Wands card, but it's coming up as the straw that broke the camel's back. And preparing for a new life and new dreams. Dealing with, and perhaps employees or power players or groups. With 11 Wands, the straw that broke the camel's back, and then Camelback Mountain came up and Brokeback Mountain to get them down off their high horse. But 11 Wands is also 2 flames, 2 sides of the same coin, 01 and 10, 1 to 1, and again the symbol for salt. Table it, quote unquote, medication, or in other words, dinner with candles. And the 101 represents a dinner setting, right? The silverware and the plate in the middle. People's remembrance of the straw that catches on fire easily, that took the house down, needing a brick house that the pigs will be safe, a safe house from Big Bad Wolf of Wall Street or Red Fox. And again, remember the wolf is the number 15 card in the medicine deck, howling. And also, pigs are always represented as a Pleiadian animal, to be kind to your pigs. That could be representing Pleiadians as well. The tiger of RS, remember RS means awakening, and tigers are silenced as the lioness of the S's to command. This little piggy went to market. This little piggy stayed home. This little piggy had roast beef. And the last one had none, but or the next one had none, but the fifth little piggy cried wee, 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 wee all the way home. From 1728 is the nurse's song, first published in 1760. This pig went to market, and that pig stayed home. This was the actual poem. This pig had roast meat, and that pig had none. And this pig went to the barn's door and cried, week, week, for more. So the piggy crying for more. Perhaps Trump putting some bad cops away, which was what was coming up right there. And again, penitentiary had come up as well. Okay. All right, so something I wanted to bring up from Bashar that I also posted. He talked about cycles per second, like what cycles per second is what we are, what does it mean to be in Christ consciousness, etc. So the three that were significant. And he also talked about an inside-out universe, which was interesting, which he talked about, you know, a bubble in space in which they lived inside the bubble, which will come up in my Japanese messages because they're planning a new city in a bubble underwater by 2030, which I'll get into. But inside out universe, and I always talk about inside out, through and through, you know, living within the planet as opposed to living outside the planet. But also, he said 333,000 cycles per second is the highest that you can go in the physical reality, because then you become non-physical. And then we are, the collective at the time he was saying this, I don't know exactly when that was above 200,000 cycles per second, well above. And then the Christ consciousness is above 230,000 cycles per second. So that was interesting. All right, so on the 10th, I was translating, and the first translation was, what's the matter? And then the message was coming up as he soaked the manna. The sun in the morning, a lack of manna. It's like there's a lack, something's getting depleted at night. There's a lack of manna when you wake up in the morning. And so that may or may not resonate with you depending on who you are. And then again, bringing up the dawn. Because remember, the dawn is a reset point. Another translation that came up that was important on that day, on the 10th, was you will see the Magi. Which is really cool when you hear the messages I bring up from the past couple days. You will see the Magi. And again, Maka was coming up. Maka. So when I was in, why can't I remember what it's called? Costa Rica. When I was in Costa Rica, my room name was Maka. And I just left wanting to say Maka all the time. Maka. And Maka is, in Japanese, is something great, but it has lots of meanings, right? It's the root, Maka, which is supposed to be very good for you. And they have very high quality Maka in Japan. The magic silk thread came up here with the worm and the snake. So again, alluding to Hydra as we're moving into the snake year. Like smooth as silk. And then the red demon also popped up here. But again, there was a symbol that came up with the S of the snake. And 3 like little ones within it, like a mother snake with 3 little ones in her, or her nest. You're all set. Let's see what, oh, and little medic and arrival came up, which is interesting because I never say the word medic, but I had to correct someone. I had something in print that was said about my father that was incorrect, so I had to correct them. Because my father was in the war. He was a medic in the war. He wasn't a doctor in the war. And they listed him as a doctor in the war. But anyway, I didn't realize that I'd written down little medic as one of the translations here, and the arrival of the little medic. And 6 months came in right after that. And again, related to the snake year. And again, all about adopting and adapting. What else came up? Actually, in translation, the C word came up, you know, the 2020 C word. That came up as well. I don't know if there's going to be something else like that or a reemergence, you know, an attempt this year in the spring. There could be something like that. And again, right? So you won't believe all the crap that they handed to you the first time, right? Because you've already learned over the past 4 years your own truth about the situation. So remember any fear tactics that are coming out. It's a fear tactic, right? To stay in your high vibration and be loving. Send love to those things or places, and even the drones. You know, you can send love to them if it bothers you. Noah also came up in the messages, and the moat. So it can be remote or the moat around the castle. And May, the month of May keeps coming up. And that came up yesterday too with day, right? Because day, the capital letter D, you know, long time ago, I don't know what civilization it was, but the D was shorthand for the pi symbol, which was actually an M. So like parentheses with a 1 in the middle was what D was short for. And that was the letter M. So literally D and M are the same. So when you say the word day, you can say May as well, because day is dad at the Y in the road. So it's also Ma at the Y in the road. Very interesting. And it's also May Day, which is an ask for help, which I'll bring up because that came up this morning. And again, remember Noah represent that energy of Enki and Poseidon, Ea. So again, coming up. So what came up in this message this day was about somebody from Somalia. So I didn't know anything about Somalia when I looked at this message. And Somalia is divided into 2 parts. And it was like someone had left their birds. So I don't know if it's metaphor or actually left their birds, right? This could be someone who left their women behind in the other part and they weren't able to get to them, right? Someone had land in the other part, but they weren't able to access it. So someone left, let's see, left Somalia. There is nothing like my birds. My mother is Somalia. My mother is in Somalia, and there's a mess left to my birds. It's like someone who can't get to their relatives, their loved ones, their birds, because their country is split. And it had to do with Somalia. And at first I thought, I didn't realize it was split into 2 countries, but it's not recognized, though, internationally. At first I thought they were talking about, it says Somalia is the country standing in front of you. So I thought they were talking about maybe Ethiopia, which it could be possibly. But again, talking about the chimney that is larger than the size of the nano in front of the cone. So talking about the size of something, right? So, but the size of the nano something in front of a cone is huge, right? The cone is the vortex. Right? But the chimney not so large or small. I'm from my mother's time and I'm not missing the birds. But then thugs were coming up too. There's someone who's preventing them from getting to their land or their people, their belongings, because of division. What's the matter? Soaked manna, the sun in the morning or dawn. Lacks manna, the whole Lama or the mother. Lamana is the morning. My name is, or so in the hand of tomorrow. Where do you come from to be loved and praised like that? A question about my mother, I trust you, the eyes of the beholder. Noah will stay. We are valuable. and I don't know who we are. All right, so this one's someone who knows that E is connecting with us right now through Elena Denon, and knows that the ETs don't mean us any harm, right? We are valuable to them. But that was the energy coming through that day, as well as the snake coming through again, and the arrival of the snake, adopting and adapting. The magic dragon who lives by the sea, the arrival in 6 months of salt, which I just talked a lot about, the salt being the D and the M. That no one adapts or adopts like the snake. And to bear themselves, right? They shed their skin, they take it all off. Puff the magic dragon who lives by the sea, in the autumn mist, remember, is stationed and resolved. The snake weaves and always returns to the center, front and center. And then the tennis player was coming up. And Cobra Kai. 2 friends to live harmoniously. Get ready to shed your skin. With the salt and the fresh and the dance between. The salt in the wounds and the fresh outlook. Mother, may I? And what is it? Absent nothing. T-shirt. T-shirt came up a couple times too. T-shirt, parent, swimsuit, and mayo. And Gaio. The Gaio people came up on the previous page, and then mayo. And May 10th, May 1st are both coming up here. There's some, May keeps coming up over and over again, but then May Day keeps coming up too, because day is actually May as well. And then A in Arabic, Ia came up as Mayan. Yes, yes, yes. And in Latin, oh my, and Greek, yes, virus. Sanskrit, onions, and Tibetan, this, Io. And Io is I in Italian. In Afrikaans, to own, I am. And Hawaiian, even more. The arrival of the snake will take a bit, since the dragon doesn't like to share. But snake is salty, and no one adopts or adapts like them, to bearing it all and shedding their skin. To be stationed and resolved by May 10. Puff the magic dragon, who frolics in the midst of the sea, in the midst of the sea, and the midst of the sea, leaves salt in wounds, requiring a fresh outlook, and snake is just the one to do it. Beaver Dam, Pussy Cat, the celebration of the little medic's arrival in about 6 months, and again about May 10th. Essentially, that's my nephew's birthday too, but possible April at the earliest. Salt soaks to evolve with the snake. So it's recommending salt soaks to evolve with the snake. To devote giant sea to say, or mist. So they're saying mist is like to say, like the dragon's spray. And again, the C word, deposition, stirring the pot. So I don't know if there's another deposition about it, but that could be stirring the pot or deposing of it, stirring the pot. Progress to station and resolve. Removing a leader who refuses to go, or deposition, or to give evidence or testimony, or in a swearing in to bear witness. And also mist you was coming up. Before mist monster or dragon leaves, with one last breath to stir things up, with every breath you take, I'll be missing you. I'll be misting you. A spray from the sea. And also Bashar talked about when first contact comes in, eventually they'll actually just park their ships at the shore so people can get used to them being there, so they can all come and visit. So again, Ia's truth was coming up here as no ahs about it. Ia feels lucky to be able to witness, to just be with us. And then Somalia breaks down to So, Ma, or mother, and then El and Ia, which is Enlil and Enki. His time on key as Enki. Soph Ia's Om, all Ia, the birds of Thoth, the infinite humans embodied by Source. And again, this is like with Somalia is like Iya saying, like he left us behind. He couldn't get to us. Notice source or so see, as opposed to sorcerer, the magician or wizard, who is so not you are, but the of the tiger, and the ark. The sorcerer from early medieval Latin is sortiarius, and from Latin sortum, fate or fortune, and then also to bind. In Hopi, two-heart wizard. And then so Mali was coming up. Mali is the gardener or florist, the crown, money, unlucky, draw, equal or imbalance. Wonderful, fantastic hippopotamus. And the Mali Empire, West Africa, that was 1226 to 1620, the area below Morocco. And again, this energy of the sourcing of the mouse or the rat. And Italian was coming up there, just sourcing the mouse, or somebody who owes you, right? When their MO was to use you. And that was all coming up on the 10th. That's funny, with May 10th. Okay. And snake is yin. And Kuan Yin had come up too. I'd posted on Kuan Yin. And it came up again, right? Because when the waves of the salt and the fresh waves meet, right? The salt's heavier, so it goes down and pushes the fresh water up, which creates the vortex. And again, that symbol of that is the yin yang. And Koni, Konni, in Sanskrit is consciousness. And also birds in Kokborak, in Arabic, Koni is be, and in Uzbek is mind. Consciousness of birds be mine. Oh, interesting too. And the numbers 4 and 8 came up, and they came up this morning again, like the 2, 4, 6, 8 energy of the even numbers. As I'm reading, even if it's safe, even if you are safe. It is the cone blade. It is the blade of consciousness, right? The sword of consciousness. And in the Sumer library, Sagi, right? So the Magi, the Sagi, which Sag is union. The SA and GI in Sumerian is to prepare. It came up with a marriage exam. Try to get married. Test will be called PA, whether that's father or Pennsylvania. Examined here. I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going anywhere. Marriage exam. S, which can represent the snake or Sophia. We're already here. S, we're still here. S, we have been caught. S, I can't find yet. S, I will give. And then S, amino cape came up. Something about aminos. S all over again. To incite the bull or skin a deer. And the head of the snake. The head examiner. S will be covered. Ice above the line. And ice came up too a lot yesterday. Ice top layer. Ice on top will be covered. An ice reservoir. S all over again. The animal kingdom, which came up in Hawaiian. In animal tissue, you will read the calendar. Where is the name of nature on the calendar? And then my heart was coming up. There's definitely some changes coming up. And so the word animal is significant here too, because that came up like crazy, the animal kingdom. But that's like also the word animated and anime. All has to do with animal. You will read the calendar. Where is the name of nature? My heart. All right, so now we have a message from the 10th also. Let's see where it is. And this starts out with the underlying energy of the trickster coyote. Let's see if I don't know if I took a picture of it or not. Let's see where we are. I may not have. I don't, but it's just a few of the cards. It was the trickster coyote and the underlying energy, and then the 36 of the lizard dreams, the butterfly number 9 of transformation. It says energy of death, Atlas, and the hermit. The trickster dreamer lizard transforms. And then the first card out was the 26 of the squirrel after the blue heron. The wild boar, the 35 horse, 30 rabbit, and then the otter and spider, 8 and 43. With space for the snake, number 6, and the mouse, number 20. So the snake medicine people are very rare. This is from the book. Living through multiple snake bites and transmuting all poisons, mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. The power of creation, sexuality, psychic energy, alchemy, reproduction, and ascension or immortality. Shedding of the skin, of wholeness, cosmic consciousness, and the ability to experience anything willingly and without resistance. All things are equal in creation, and those experienced as poison can be eaten, ingested, integrated, and transmuted with proper state of mind. Thoths and Hermes used 2 snakes around the sword to represent healing. Complete understanding and acceptance of the masculine and feminine within creates a melding of the 2 into 1, producing divine energy. Transmute some thought, action, or desire for wholeness to be achieved. In this change of consciousness, become the magician or enchantress. Transmute and accept the power of the fire. As when the squirrel, when going within, becomes the wild boar, and then the wounded warrior horse with scared rabbit at home, the curious otter with dreams to come together with spider with space for lover and family to wake up in a wake-up call for mouse. The page of wands goes within to surrender in union with a strong attachment to space or the family nest, and the mouse being very aware, right? So the mouse could represent someone who's very small in the family, or perhaps something you consider a pest, a little pest. Let's see what else we have here. So Saturday, I think I posted a couple posts on Instagram for the days of the week. And then on the 11th, that's when the North Node went into Pisces, which is very dreamy. So that energy was coming up. This was really interesting too. On this page, I literally sneezed when I was translating my messages, and the next translation I translated was what was it? It's not on this page. Oh, mana in the nose. Right after I sneezed, I literally translated something new, and it said mana in the nose. So a gift in the nose, right? To sneeze because you're getting out the stuff that doesn't belong there. Grandfather was coming up a lot there too. And there's a book was recommended to me to read from a friend of mine. My father happens to be mentioned of it, but it looked kind of interesting because one of the chapters he talks about flow. But it's called The Essence of the Intervention, and it's a medical book, obviously. The Essence of Intervention, Medicine and the Joy of Creativity by Dr. Kieran Murphy. It's a masculine energy. It's a man, not a woman. It's Kieran Murphy, if you happen to be interested. And yeah, mana in the nose. All right. Where are we now? Okay. So here we have on the 12th. We're getting to this. Yeah, I have to do this one. I don't have a picture of this either. Well, the underlying energy here was the bat, which is number 42 in the medicine deck. And then the 52 again came out with the Black Panther as the first card. The bat comes in, the panther plays or prays, as I just got delivery. After the number 1 eagle and 24 crow, the 34 horse, and the 42 bat, perhaps the Packers eat crow. And I had no idea that they were playing until my message. I did my message on Instagram, and it was coming up, right? I'm not a sports watcher, so it was really interesting that the Eagles game kept coming up, and the Eagles' soul number is 25, and it's a 25 year, so there's a lot going for the Eagles for the Super Bowl. But it was coming up. Perhaps the Packers eat crow, which they did. The Eagles doing shadow work as the wounded warrior horse gets moving after morning prayer, or AM prayer, one who prays. The Queen of Wands bows down to Great Spirit, as dead crow is the left-handed guardian, the keeper of all sacred law. And again, this is from the book of the medicine deck. So they're the keeper of all sacred law, so they can bend those laws, the law of physical universe, and shapeshift, which is very rare. This includes doubling or being in two places at one time, consciously taking on another physical form and being the fly on the wall to observe what's happening far away. Even in Europe at Turtle Island, the boat people, alchemists, were even scared by this medicine, the illusion of animals coming into their camp or dwelling to discern their medicine, where the weasel in the medicine deck comes on as the one, someone sends into the other camp to find out what's going on. All these sacred texts are under protection of the Crow law. The Book of Laws, or Book of Seals, is bound in crow feathers, representing spirit made flesh. Crow is the protector of the Ogala, or ancient records. The wampum belts are sacred law belts kept in black lodges of the women's, a women's thing, where all things are born of women. Crow is the omen of change and lives in the void with no sense of time, seeing simultaneously three fates of past, present, and future, merging light and dark, inner and outer. Look at the laws of Great Spirit in relation to the laws of man. Crow looks at the world with one eye and then the other, or cross-eyed. Call the shots as you see them. To eat crow is to humble oneself to Great Spirit, to see another way, for the wounded warrior to surrender, to meet the bat flying in for a one-to-one. Cat woman and bat man. As in Catalan, bat a place exposed to the elements. Cat's woman, her man. C at woman, B at man. Ka ti woman and ba ti man, as in cat and Batman. The soul of the tree woman, the body of the tree man, of nurture and nature, where she packages the ash or bright light, or encapsulates it. He embodies and becomes her armor and amour. As the first cards are then out with the 52 of the Queen of Swords, Black Panther, the crow's shadow is watching what comes next. As Ed's, or the Godfather, from my post that day, the Bat and Eagles Ball, the Gala, or Gaia, and Lil and Ia, and sibling rivalry, i.e. sports competition. The talking heads of Gala and Gaia et al. And AE inside GA for a gay old time. At cross purpose or aligned, tension or peace. The talking heads. The bat is the body, or the plus sign, and the body of 11 which represents the ball here. So be at, like be there, be square was coming up as where it's be at or be all. And again, the alignment with tension or peace. And interesting because tension, I later then looked up in Japanese because I've been doing nothing but Japanese for the past 3 days. Tension is of tenshi, which is Japanese for angel. Tension or peace. And peace is peas in the seal or peas in the pod. Ten-shun or pea seal or ace. And see all. So then with tension came up the TP of the triangle, the JC, which I've told you before, the letters J and C make up the toroidal field with direction. And then shun was coming up as SION, which is the Sophia connection, or the sine wave, which is also the snake. So we have the symbols of the triangle, the infinity, which is the torus, and the snake. Of change, infinitely, and the infinitely was coming up as the light year, infinite light year of the sine wave. And also the triangle coming up as the trident, the infinity as the torus, and the snake as the co-apostrophe-bra, which I brought up before, the tree, the apple, and then Adam and Eve, which were coming up, and I posted this as well, as the Y and the X and the Z, which Z is the sleeping human that becomes the Christed consciousness here, with the N, with the bridge, and there's the gamma waves as well. So when the N has to go backwards and get up, and this is the Y then going backwards too, which then ends up being like the back of the arrow, right? Showing the momentum this way. This is the Crazy Eights dance, but you can look at my my post for that as well, if you would like. All right, so this was the big day. So on the 13th, which was Monday, oh, that's interesting, right? So Monday is another reset day. MON is moon. And moon for me, I've always broken down into MO of Mary Magdalene and the ON being on, that on energy of Jesus. And the moon is the daughter. So the moon is, right, the womb of the earth becomes the moon, the daughter moon. And the sun's rays are the sun, but the central sun, the source, is the Father. Let's see here. And then this day started out with the word animal and animated, because you never think of those two as the same thing, but they are. So, and then anime, which is very Japanese, right? So, and I think I was listening to Bashar and the word animated came up, and that's what got me started. And remember resin, you always think of resin as something fake, but that's actually the sap of the tree. What else was coming out with the animes? Oh, so the animal thing is actually what led me to record my channeling. Okay, so I don't usually do a whole long channeling because it's a lot for me to translate a lot, right? Because I can translate just a few words in a lot of different ways, so it gives me a big message. So normally I don't do a video recording because then it ends up being a long message to do, but this one was very worth it. And Yon came up, so then Yeshua was coming up, as in Jesus of Nazareth, but Yeshua of Nazareth is Y-O-N. Distant but within sight, yonder, yarn over the needle, or one, A and on. The number 4 is significant as well. It's the plus sign, but connected at one side. And that's actually, yan in Japanese is the number 4. You, afterwards, next, that one in person, feather and kind of dance. Yan is face, direction, and aspect. And then Nazareth was coming up. So the word Nazar, and remember, it has the N and the Z. Z is the sleeping human, and N is the wake up, right? The Christed bridge. So the Christed to be born into noble clan today, last night. Numbers open, an open house. So then 3 words of Nazar came up, Nazareth, but also are the Nazareth, Nazarene, and Nazarite. And I just bought Magenta's book where it combined 3 of her books. And I opened it up to a page and it ended up open to 61. As she talks about the changing fabric and talks about, the beings that we're connecting to mainly, Lyrans, Pleiadians, Sirians, and also Arcturians and Andromedans, more able to hold the light in a negative field. Oh, that's what she's talking about. How is positive polarized frequency predominant in our dimension, right, when there's so much negativity? And so she was talking about that. I don't want to go into that too much, but that was something that came up with me before I was doing this other stuff. So it was interesting because Nazareth versus Nazarene versus Nazarite was bringing up again my L versus gamma square and the rainbow circle that I showed you, where one goes from root to crown and the other goes from crown to root. And then as they hit their marks, the other diagonal automatically opens up and connects to source. So that same energy came up here because I'm not going to go into detail with this because this is a long video already, but I keep getting this energy of Jesus on one side and Ea on the other, right? Because one is very human, the other one's more ET oriented, but as the same, because both of them have come up with the numbers 40 and the Page of Cups, that innocent energy. So an L, the right angle, is the lambda, lambda father, and lamb is Jesus, right? And then we have the gamma, which is like the 7, which is the happy mother, which is the energy. Notice that Ea is in Gaia, okay? I spell it with an E, Gaea. And then in the middle is the show of power of the Nazarene. Nazarene is the Christian. And notice Ian at the end again is Ea, of Ea. Christ and Ea come together in the middle. And the word een, which is actually in Japanese is energy, E-N-E. But here comes up as one, alone, lonely, that energy of being in the center. And the number 4 came up there with the U, again, that lamb energy. And island with direction, island word, towards the island. The beach, the sand, the sun, a huge amount, a lot, many, mother, paternal grandmother, you, he, she, him, her, we, to see. And then Friday came up in the center. And what's today? Friday. Oh, interesting. So anyway, it comes again to that same symbol of the circle and the square, because a square literally is a circle because there's no straight lines, there are arcs. So the square is the circle. And then you put the triangles inside. So I'll just show you real quick what I'd written down below here. Okay, so it just comes together like that. And again, this side was coming up as, I think Ea was coming up over here and Jesus was coming up over here. And I put the L and the gamma in the wrong positions for those columns. So they were switched. But again, it comes to that same symbol here in the middle. Right? The pressure of the momentum drives them inward to connect in the center. The ET and the Christ Ed, right? The rainbow bridge and the Christ Ed bridge, Christ to Ed or Father, and same kind of energy, and the rain to bow bridge. The 144 plus horsepower, again, where the arrow goes through the 1111, which makes 2 hearts as one. In Friday, which notice FRI are 6, 18, and 9, which is 33. Again, there's the Christ consciousness and the 2-way bridge of the N, the twin flame open house or leap or arc, the whispering bench, and the day, which is also May, and planet sharing, A, taking off home on Friday. Thank God it's Friday, which I also posted as being 2 capital T's, and then the little baby T in parentheses in the middle is TGIF, literally. I might go more into the Nazareth, Nazarene, and Nazarite, but again, it's just bringing up that idea of 2 sides of the same coin, Ea and Jesus, and meeting as one in the middle, right? ET and human coming together here. both sides of the masculine and feminine, and the little T, leap, arc, bridge. So the little T ends up between two mountains, right? So the big T's are the trees or the mountains, which is the M, with the little T in the middle, right? The two mountains coming together to create the little T, which then leaps to source, which the V is the feminine in the middle, the creation energy. Again, the D equals the pi, the circle with the line down the middle, which equals the M, which equals 1v1, which is co-creation, which equals the numbers for pi, which is 3.14, and then it reflects the word pi, and then co-creation across the D of dimensions. And by the way, the Eagles won over the Packers 22-10. When I looked, I didn't watch the game, but they did win. And so, and slope keeps coming up too. That word slope, right? The angle. And again, angular momentum. Please come and see me came up as one of the translations. The sun is shining. Please come and see me. And adventurous came up. And in Japanese, so what led me to go in, usually I don't get much from Japanese. I won't get much translation. It doesn't make any sense, or it just says the same thing I put in. But not this time, okay? That's what's so cool about this. Usually there's very few things I can translate in Japanese. So when I was doing translations on the 13th before I did my channeling, I was doing Kokborok, Japanese, and Arabic. Arabic's usually the first one I can get, but for some reason, Arabic wasn't working well for me, and it always works well for my translations. But Japanese was coming up as Mon love, right? M-O-N, as in Monday, and Mon is moon. It also said, I love you, man, and love hill, which is the slope. And then love you, Sakama. Oh, and Seika. I'll tell you what that means in a bit. Again, well, Seika is difference. And it's weird because when it translates in Google, it's not going to necessarily match the definition when you look it up in Wiktionary, which is fine because I'm getting the message I'm supposed to get. And it's usually the same meaning. It just can come through in different ways. So, and even if you put the same words in day to day, it can actually change in Google. So if you're doing Google Translate, it's not going to be always extremely literal, so just be careful about that. But for messages, it's great because I'm getting the message I'm supposed to get. So love you, Sakama, and then love Mana Saka. Great Saka, great difference. And the slope, and again, slope has to do with differences, right? It's between the base and the top is the slope. And again, difference. The word difference came up in Japanese, and again, Mana Sakama, right? Great Sakama, great difference of the mother, because you have Ma in there. And then Friday came up that day. I literally wrote Friday is 11725, which is today, 27. And it's 1172025. The alignment was 72025 this year. The star and the Ace of Wands today. And the symbol I was writing, because I was doing the Z in the end when they overlap together, right? Because the Z is sleeping, but the N would be really taller and skinnier because it's gamma waves. And it looks like a lifeguard stand because it made an X in the middle. That's pretty cool. So I'll just show you. It just looked like this. It looked like a little lifeguard stand. The gaze, the vow of ancient Israel to be monk-like, the moral man in equal temples. And again, the word Christian, where Christ is the CH is horsepower and RIST is the cross. So the horsepower, the 144 of the cross, which is the 1111 with the arrow through it that becomes the two hearts is one. And then you have Ian, which is of Ea, Christ and Ea. The Christed prophet, the sleeping prophet. Even though we know Ea is not the sleeping prophet we know of, but it was coming up that way. The open door, the two-way bridge of the end taking off in two directions, both horizontal and vertical or perpendicular, where when you talk about electromagnetic fields, it's not opposites, it's perpendicular. And then DAD came up, but I forget what words that came up from. But again, the Father just keeps coming up. So when I'm trying to translate certain words, I'm not getting any definitions. So just know if you have one way, you have the other. Because if you have like an is one or a, and you don't have a definition for NA, it's not one, right? So ZA is not AZ, which can be Arizona, or A through Z. But there's this energy of R, which is open house to the nth degree. Open house to the nth degree. All right. So at 6:40 p.m., I channeled and videotaped my message, which I actually posted the channeling on Instagram, TikTok, so you can see it there as well. But I want to go into it more because I have another message from her. All right. So I know very little about Japan. I know about Nara because of Elena Denon, because she was in Japan recently, but I know very little. I know that one of the islands was like Chika, I think it is. But, you know, it was a nickname for the island. It wasn't the full name, but that's all I knew going into this. So this is what came up. So I did the channeling, and I first tried to get a little idea of what the message was about, just channeling a little bit really quickly, but it was going to take me hours to do because I have to go through each section, because if you put too much in at once, it just scrambles it and you don't get anything. So it starts out with that magical place, all right? That magical spot, that magical thing. The magic Earth Children's cold garden. The magic difference. And the garden. So this is what was coming up initially. It was just really quick to find out what the message was coming up about. And immigrants and no difference was coming up at first too. That literally I wrote down supplemental ancestor, salt name is fall child to immigrants with no difference. And many cheek members. And the staff and Sea Lion Peak also came up. Sea Lion Peak's actually in Canada on the western border, but it was coming up for Japan as well. And also the child, because what I didn't know is the name for Japan is Wa, and Wa can be derogatory or seen as, they actually changed the symbol for it because the Japanese saw it as derogatory because it can mean little people, those who bow down to others, etc. So you get where they may not be like, they don't like being called Wa. It's still Wa, but I think they may have changed that too. But the symbol changed for it, which meant something much nicer. All right, so that was the first thing I realized, was that they're going to be doing some funny things about little people. And so there's a lot about children, which can represent children, but also can represent the Japanese here, okay? So the first thing that came up I was guided to Sea Lion Peak, which was in Canada, but it also took me to the Japanese islands. And the seal, that's why, the golden seal. So the golden seal was found on one of the islands in Japan. It was a seal given from a Chinese emperor to the Japanese king Na, N-A, which was a nickname for his name. And the word Aki also came up, A-C-H-I, which is eldest sister, small, little. And then that's where Chimato came up, Chinatown. And Chiyamato is to call or telephone. That's where King of Na came up, and child Nia. So I'm thinking, like, who is this King of Na's child? Because that's who I need to get to. So I looked King of Na because I found the golden seal, and that's where Queen Himiko came up, who's also called Pimiko or Ku, but I like Ko better because of the meanings. But even the Chinese at that time, she was around 300 after Christ. She was considered by the Chinese the ruler of all of Japan. So she was very well respected. Very interesting because she was not married. She ran a castle of 1,000 women. And when I looked up angel in Japanese, it's Tenshi, T-E-N-S-H-I, which literally translates city of angels, because she is city and ten is heaven. So Tenshi is angel, but literally translates like city of angels. And so you get more of an idea of what this message is going to be like. And Spirit's connecting with me. It's really beautiful. So I just don't want to miss some of my notes because I did a lot of translating. All right. So I get to, as we're approaching 2 hours here, it's 1:59, right? The 11th hour, 10 seconds. So I went to it's Shika no Shima Island. So Shima literally means island, so you don't need island because Shika no Shima is Shika no Island. But when you look up Shika, it also means dentistry, which was so funny. And this was kind of after the fact. It literally comes up as Island of the Misfit Toys, which will come into play later in my message. So when I looked up the peak, the Sea Lion Peak I told you in British Columbia is there. And then in fandom, Ashika Island came up, and the island of Thalion, I think it was, or Lion, the Isle of the Sea Lion. Okay, but this is fandom, right? So it's just a game, but it's still Ashika Island because I kept getting stuck on the fact that the Sea Lion Peak was in Canada, not in Japan. But I was being guided to Japan, and Shima had come up this week as well, which is island, and I had gotten 2nd Street on January 10th. Which is really interesting because I was trying to get an address for this on the Japanese island, like 2nd Street on this island. But then 2nd Street is also significant for me because I live near 2nd Street and my aunt and uncle lived on 2nd Street. So there's a lot of addresses that I connected with for 2nd Street. So I finally got to Shika Island to realize, okay, this is where they're taking me because that's where the gold seal of the King of Na was found, which is a national treasure. And I was looking at the addresses there to see if where the 2 farmers found it had to do with 2nd Street or anything like that. But there were 2 farmers. The 2 path, right? 2nd Street is the 2 path. And the king was is Na-ko-ku. Just like her name is Himiko or Ku. And she was assuring me that she was related to this king, even though he was the 1st century and she was the 3rd century, I think. But definitely her relation. Notable people from island include Nogizaka and 46 members of Yuki Yoda and singer blah blah blah. And it's the home of the Shikomi Shrine. So Wa is the first name for Japan and its people. It ranges in meanings as my, our, oneself, but also means dwarf barbarians. So again, that they didn't like that. And, because it represents behaviorally submissive, but also physically short. Yeah. So they changed Wa's character to something that meant peace and harmony, sum total. So about Queen Himiko. It's also, she's from Yamatari or Yamato, which came up in the message. The ruler of Wa, she was called the Shaman Queen, unmarried in a fortress served by 1,000 women. Her name in Japanese, in their meaning, means sun child or sun daughter, alluding to divine descent from Amaterasu, the Shint. And I didn't look up Shint at this point because I had no idea what it was. Sun goddess, a minority place in North Kyushu, but most consider Nara most likely place of Yamato. Okay. And the Chinese, like I said, did recognize her as the ruler of all Japan. Okay. So my first translation was this. That magical place, small item, the origin of yes, I'm a princess. Princess Ka. Ka is a foot princess. Him, oh, that's really interesting. And then him, she comes up as 2 parts herself. So she's saying, I'm a princess. I'm not a queen. I'm a princess. Princess Ka. Ka is a foot princess. And then she says him, which is HYM, not HIM. And then she says, I am a footman. I am so happy. I am a foot doctor. And remember, she's called a shaman. So her doctor part, her shaman part, she sees as the masculine side. The star picture is a chi. The name of the star is Achi Yamato. The star is, my name is Chi Yamato. So she's calling herself her place, which is Nara. Yamato, beloved, one who is loved. It is meaningless. It is a meaningless thing for a child. I can only see the meaning of the child. Ah, the spare gear too. Hot father. I can't say anything about the air, haha. She's like making little giggles. Ah, I want some spare gear. Ah, I want some air. Haha. At home, the two differences are possible or not. But they float, fly, dance, and fly away. A magical earth of little difference. Japanese channel, medical peak, and magic. Mysterious Nara ancestors are magical. Mysterious ancestors are magical creatures. So this is her energy, all right? And she literally says Nara, okay? So, and she says mine is peak. It means peak in Japanese, but mine is coming up here, and mountain magic. So Na is the king that she's a descendant of, the king of Nakoku. I'm not going to go in trying to pronounce all this stuff because I'm not going to say it right, but she considers herself as the place. All right, so then I ended up translating it again just to make sure I at least had the idea of the message correct. Okay, so that magical place, a child thing, advises to love earth, energy, and that tea is good. Or that elegance, that place, that machi, which means town, machiko, or little place, a child's place, you know. Machiko gate of loving earth, Yamato, Nara energy. Ah, so that Machito gate. That's interesting because gate came up in my message this morning too. Achi ina ah, Sophia garden ima, which when I first saw ima, I was getting in the Pleiadian feminine god is Imana. And Emma was coming up here. I'm like, what does Emma mean? But I'll tell you in a minute. Sophia garden Emma or Ima. Sophia garden picture ma. Garden Ima K, which is for me energy, and the Ka energy of the soul. But she's saying that this energy is of that Maki Koman, Alki Ina, LOL Sophian, Emma dash Ka is right? The soul of this energy is this is where she lives. Princess Shoma is a small energy. And again, Himi is Himi with an I. Where did I write that down? Himi with an E is princess, child, and that's what she wants to be called. Because Himi with an I is something different. And I wrote it down. I'll see if I can find it. But you can look it up if you want. Where did I put it? Where's Himi? Anyway, I wrote it down several times. Hopefully I'll get to it. But anyway. So Shomi Hima. Princess Shoma is a small energy. Princess Shoma is thin, slim, with narrow eyes, a thin girl. Princess Shoma's name is Achi Yamato, or love child of Yamato, or Yamato, sorry. Princess Shoma is a thin girl named Aiji Yamato, and they respell Achi as Aiji, Yamato, beloved child of Yamato. Child doctor, and again she was called shaman, and she was unmarried, so child doctor. Everyone is good. Everyone is an artist. Children, everyone, good people, painters, children, doctors, art staff, civil. Children, doctors, artists, differences. Many cheeks. And again, this can represent her as a child or being childlike, or as the Japanese, because they're smaller with little cheeks. The doctor and the artist are different. Minnie's cheeks are cute. Ashikaga Peak. Ashikaga Peak. Aho and gear. So then she gets into the stuff about the gear. It's like the gear that they had made it idiot proof, like, you know, the books for idiots. That's the kind of energy I was getting there. Aho member gear mana. So idiot gear. Ashika Peak. Aho member. And mini members. Let's see where I go down to translate. All right, so I translate down here. It's tricky, wow. Tricky turn. Tricky magic Japanese eyes and name, which remember is reputation as well, and local shore or earth chores. The earth's name is Brown, blood brown, LOL. So she's laughing. Difference, day, like day and night. Little, short, small, difference. If it is a different product, people and mana, if the people are happy, then Nara, or then ancestral mana, something great. The ancestral pot, right? So then you're getting bigger, you're expanding. Then the cup of the ancestral pot. Like if this, then that. Then I don't want to be a geisha and I don't want to be a shy person. I don't like rough cooking or coarse kettle, but kettle in Japanese means decisions. So she doesn't like to have to make decisions. She wants to be the princess, not the queen. Oh, shoot. So did I write it down on here? Let's see. Yeah, part of it comes up as, it was funny because there's one line towards the end of the channeling that literally sounds like someone speaking in English, but with a really heavy accent that you can barely understand. So it's coming up like anime teacher, say PT, mind your manners. An animal teacher was coming up. So again, animals. And again, animated. Anime, which is very Japanese. So I'm not finished yet, okay? So the last line of that was like Yamato literally means Yama is mountains. It's a mountain, and then two literally represents more than one, or the whole unit, you know, Yamato. So from mountain to mountain. So just like Yamato, Kwamato came up, which came up as sweet hearing, the ear, right? Learning things by hearing or by heart, like when you learn to play piano. And then Nahia was coming up as hear in the moment. Kwamanato was coming up as very sweet district of Ama here. And Ama in Japanese comes up as the pearl diver. You know, it could be a female or male fisherman or amateur. It also means sky and heaven and none. So Yamato, the pure mountains here. But Ku, as in Kuamato, means the ward or district. So how cool is this? Because ward is Wa road, the Japanese road, the districts of heaven, and skydiving, because in the meaning, the sky comes up as well. And so, you know, they're alluding to fish. However, not fish, because Wa is the Wa road, the Japanese path, and district is two paths are tricky, perhaps, but they're two paths. I leap to tree, or inner child tree, or perhaps ICT. But rictus is open mouth, and mountains cease to cry. As we go from the ICT of district, right? The two path, which I talked about, the second street. District is two street or two path, and then Richt is tricky. But I then looked up R is the open house of ICT, which can mean in-circuit test or information and communication technology. But Ictio references the fish or Pisces in ancient Greek. But ictus in Japanese is different, or differentiation, Ictio. So it's literally the two path of being open to differences, right? Having their door an open door policy to be different. This is very of Japanese. So, and I have a very good friend who's Japanese, who I haven't seen in many years, but who lived with me like 30 years ago, not with me, but as a guest in my home when I was married. And I'm just reading this to make sure I have everything for you. I just ripped something off. Let's see here. Yeah, okay. All right, so then on the 15th, when was this? All right, the 15th when I was going to bed. So it was actually the 14th into the 15th because it was after 12. And I was asking Himiko do you have a word for me before I go to sleep? And I was getting Sirenko. And it was literally coming up as arts in the park. And then I said wa, as in wa in Japan. And she said, I'm literally seeing the word as also hearing it. But then she gave me wasana. And I'm like, what's wasana? Because wa, I know I just learned is Japan. And when I looked up wasana, it was literally difference again. Okay, so there's all these different words that keep saying difference. I don't know if that's the direct meaning or not, but that's the way it's coming up. And then wa, sa separately, W-A-S-A is harmony. And wa, sa, na separately is still difference. Okay, so harmonious differences is the message she was bringing through like crazy. And then the cards had come up 3, 3, 2, and 1. And I was going to go look up 3, 3, 2 in Gematria, but I ended up putting in 3, 3, 3 by accident, which we'll get to in just a second. But the manifestation of two angels at the bottom of the Statue of Liberty was coming up. And there's an Atlantean etheric altar over the Statue of Liberty, which I've told you many times if you listen regularly. And that I think it was back in 17 I got this message. I literally saw it of all the angels were at the bottom of the Statue of Liberty and the Pleiadian ships were coming in at the top. And I literally right here was getting calling all angels. So I don't know if I'm going to be making a trip to the Statue of Liberty and calling all angels to come with me if you'd like. But I've not done anything for sure yet. I want to kind of confirm when this is supposed to be. So I don't want to go into too much more about it. But again, next month is Valentine's Day, and the 14 is the angelic energy. 14 is the temperance card. And then February 3rd came up for me as well as the fourth new year of the leap year's New Year's, because it's not quite the leap year yet. So continued into 2025, which March is the beginning of the year anyway. Right, March to April. So, and then also I was looking up the Valentine's Day. So Japanese Valentine's Day is 7/7, which came up again. Because remember how I told you the first New Year was 4/9, 39 weeks was January 7th this month, but it was 20 days early, which was December 18th. So I was calculating the other three New Years and were they birthed when they were 20 days early, and one of them lands on 7/7, which is the Japanese Valentine's. So that's significant. The Kiksa, the QIXI, Kiksa, it's Tanabata. The evening of the 7th is a star festival, and they celebrate on different days each year, but they always use 7/7 as the beginning of it. It's the meet of Orihime, look at that, I didn't even notice that before, and Hikoboshi as Vega and Altair. The legend is the Milky Way separates these lovers and only allowed to meet once a year. The date varies by region, like I said, but the first festival always begins on 7/7. So the legend was there was no bridge for them to meet. So Orihime cried so much that a flock of magpies or magnetic pies promised a bridge with their wings, unless, of course, it rains. And so, of course, it rained, and the tears of Orihime and Hikoboshi, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's the legend, but you can look that up as well. A ton of Father came. There's a big push to connect with Father. And so Wa also came up as ancestor. That's come up a few times. And again, that word district is very significant because it's the two path of difference. And then manifold and manifested come up too, whereas the manifold is the folding within of the feminine, and the manifest is the fest outwardly of the masculine. Ten, 15, 20, 25. Yeah, so 10, 15, 25 came up too as one of the end dates of my dates. So when I looked up 333, the fourth entry was Philadelphia Eagles, and number 4 is so important too, because we always talk about the Trinity, but the fourth is the reset point, right? It's that Godhead 0 point kind of energy. And number 6 was pregnant, 7 was Thule, and 8 was Magic Street, 13 was meant to be, and 24 was Triforce. And you can look up the rest if you want on Gematria. Sophia Highs was 41. And then I did look up 332, which was music. And number 7 was I Pet Goat, right, which is Capricorn, which we're in. And then number 10 was Once in a Lifetime. There's like M10, May 10th. And then 12 was Queen Bee. 13 was Hare Krishna. 17 was Bulls. 18 was December 3, or 12/3. 20 was Diamond Heart. 21 was Grandfather. 28 was The Order. 30 was Blossom. 32 is Constance, which is my sister's name. 42 is Dog Star. And then 49 was Queen, get this, 49 was QC, for me that's Queen of Cups, but the QC of the Queen, and then Nah, no deals. That's what's 49, and 50 was Uncle Enki. So how crazy is that, right? So again, on the 15th, which today's the 17th, calling all angels into the seed of her heart is planted once as she wisely initiates. So this is what they wanted to encourage me, because I did the video, right? I'm not always so sure of myself, right? I'm not, my channeling isn't perfect yet, but they're encouraging you to step, you have to step into it for it to come. You have to start the motion for your guides to help you manifest it. So me just videoing it and just seeing how it goes, not knowing what the end point's going to be, the seed of the heart is to plant the seed as she wisely initiates or steps into it, for then the universe to help, complete the manifestation. That's all that they're asking for. You have to take that leap of faith. So she is the moon was coming up in my messages next, of distant shores. There's a lot about the moon that was coming up. The angel of Jupiter awaken, as we just talked about the angels, the temperance card. From the fire into the pink, riding the wave on the back of twin swans to get to sacred convergence. I was getting the white hanger in the cloudy mist of 9/11 memorial, but at the water, sailing up to this, the island of misfit toys. And then Yobi Tenshi was coming up, calling all angels. the calling of the angels. That's not a literal translation, but that's what I was getting, call angels. And then Laniakea was coming up again. That was from December 6th, around there, 6th, 7th. 14 degrees of Sagittarius, which is the temperance card, the angels. The 53 of legacy of light, the 35 of intimacy, the 6 of Jupiter awaken. And the Knight of Swords, JC, which again is that Taurus energy, and the Wounded Warrior Mary Magdalene with intimacy, and the legacy of light, intimacy, which is coming up as Chima or ground front of the sea, the era of the sea. So again, this energy of coming up to Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty from sea to land. The Lane of Ea, Knight of Swords and the Wounded Warrior, lovers align with the Superhighway or Laniakea, which was in December. The Burning Hero falls in the fire as Kia was coming up. Ki as in earth and then Ea, right? Because Enki means Lord of Earth. For angel to rise as it's her turn to ride. After smooth sailing, a bit of bumps, or the sine wave, to get to sacred convergence where the sea meets land. Sophia's Ea and El's on, right? So Ea being the mother's boy and Lil being the father's boy, and drama with Da, to get in at Ellis Island before they get to Lady Liberty's altar. She is the moon with Cancer and Pisces womb, the daughter of Earth's womb, and the moon's effect on rough waters. So again, the whirlpool of sorts, right, to get into Ellis Island. So then they were bringing. I couldn't remember the name. I was like, is it a Louis? What was the name of a whirlpool in the water? And it's Eddies. I couldn't think of it. And how perfect is that? Since I call God Mr. Ed all the time, and here we have the whirlpools of swirling eddies. So I went through my message again, just a brief to see if there's any more messages that wanted to come through. And it was coming up as a magical place, small Cain, as in Cain and Abel. Let it go, cold demon. Let's release it. Raw. Ah, the place, a place fee, NY of New York. Cup Mini, or Child's Fee. Or New York Cup Sacrifice, a supplementary aim. Or Ash Eye. And I was getting Arthur Ashe, right? Because I watched tennis in New York once at the Cup. So whatever that was coming up. And Arthur Ashe is actually Arthur Ashe had a center in Philadelphia to help kids on the street, get them off the street by playing sports. And now actually my his best friend took that over basically and opened up a new facility last year that not only gets them in playing sports, but then they have teachers and stuff to teach them other things, but to get them off the streets and teach them something better for themselves. So there is that energy coming up here too. The supplementary ancestor of bright light and me name, like me, and she Yamato. The name is Ah. The land is Yamato or Nara. To the child, it says, in May, or child doctor unite, or children and doctors. Morning mini cheeks. Everybody has to be a doctor in the morning. And as soon as I said that, what they mean is, when you're a doctor at work, you don't give your emotions to all your patients. You have to be professional. So basically saying everyone has to be a doctor in the morning and be professional when you wake up so you don't take out your grogginess on others. The doctor is the doctor, and in the morning, he has a mini cheek, right? Right, has a sweet cheek. And then instead of I'm, the word was coming up as I apostrophe N, which came up as different, morning, mini cheeks, different, Shika, peak, Ashikaga, peak, and the assistant of Ashikaga is Mana, or greatness, the members of Yamonia, and I Yamonia, which is to unite, thin, unite Yamonia. And there's that manya again, the M-O-N of Monday and moon. Love and gates. I apostrophe N, ya, ha, ha was coming up as different from mother. Ah or moon or mother. Again, daughter's different than mother. Mother's minion. Mother's valuable price or results of costs. A metaphor here as the result of the cost of the metaphor of the love of the earth. Tricky, wow. Ground with tea, a small amount is all it takes basically. And then it came up as I love it, but written 6 times. PT. Tricky, wow. In the name Chicha, which again, Chichen Itza references child as well. W-Say, S-A-I, peachy mind, little peak, or West Mana, or greatness, of she or city products. The blood brothers coming up again here. LOL, she says. Again, peachy peak. And again, that's referencing something little and something great in some kind of city product or city of angels product. And then Noah ancestor K came up literally, which then it alludes back to Ea, ancestor K or Enki. But they also brought up that the blood is brown because the earth's blood is tea. And that's why tea is good for you. Okay, really cool message there. So blood tea is brown, LOL again. Peachy Peak, LOL, Manashi, or, right, the city of angels. The product of Noah, ancestor Ki, Mana, cost you, right? Mana could be the devil man too, can cost you. Kamana Hayato, where are you, high or low? There is nowhere to go. No, and then Noah translated Noah, so cute. Days later. It's also saying something like that, but the manifestation isn't happening until days later. So be patient with what you ask for. Hearing and painting, but this isn't the end of it, okay? All right, so then yesterday I woke up and at 10:55, I woke up and 14 came up and I opened Magenta's book at 10:55 yesterday morning to page 216. So the tower kept coming up, and yesterday was the 16 of the tower. And it was actually pages 16 to 17, which was yesterday to today, because the energy was 16 of the tower yesterday, and it's the 17th today. And I opened up to chapter 39. It was like the second or third page in. And she was talking about cosmic fire. And the chapter started on 214, which is Valentine's Day, right? At cosmic fire and the dragon's breath. So I'm not going to go into details of what she was talking about, but it totally brought me into perspective about some of my stuff. It brought it together. And she was talking about the 0 point, that you can't decode 3D from 3D. You have to be in 4D or higher to decode 3D, etc. So to decode 5D, you have to be higher than 5D. And she was talking a lot about 6 and 7D and the expansion and what 0 point actually is, right? So she talks about the flame, the cosmic fire, the essence or energy of 0 point or nothingness, the abyss, the void. But then when 0 point reaches beyond 7D, there are many merge points here, right? The nexus points, the shift, the doorways. So there are many, right? Because the 5D station is supposed to be the jump off point then for all other dimensions, right? So she talks about the merge points where 7D, 8D, 9D, and 10D and 11D all sit in the same place, all metaphoric as merge, because after 7D, there's no physical anymore. Intertwined polarity, notice intertwined polarity, is so abundant and frequent at this point. Right? The 0 point is a collection of living imprints, just like we talk about our reality is actually still moments, but there's a billion still moments in a second or a minute, whatever it is. It's like a movie, literally. So she goes into all of this stuff. And so that got me started. And she also answered why she calls it the dragon fire, right? And she said when you collapse the wave of your matrix structure as one infinity and take all your 144 matrices through the pivot point or that shift point or externalized stargate, as you do this, you create what we'll call blue star fire or quantum convergence charge. So this is that angular momentum that we talk about, right? It's like when you approach a swirling eddy in the ocean, you're going to get sucked in if you get too close, right? It's creating momentum. So she says the quantum convergence charge that's created when you collapse the wave and pull in all your 144 matrices into a rainbow serpent structure, or literally changing the entire formation of your DNA structure. And I may be quoting it loosely. I'm leaving out the little words and stuff like that. But it's literally what she's saying is when you get into this speed of this high vibration, you get to the 0 point where you ride the dragon, the rainbow serpent, into the nexus of your own blue star fire matrix. The blue star fire is the momentum charge that powers your Merkaba dragon to create warp speed or fly and dive. Notice that came up in my messages about heaven and the fish, because it wasn't just about diving into the water for fish, but from heaven in a skydive. So flying and diving through the nexus and access externalized landscape that mirrors and reflects the true you, and that is the true you or your frequency codes, memories, and experiences, etc. So what I was getting was when you pivot, when you turn, there's a charge from collapsing the wave that you're in into a rainbow bridge, serpent structure, or the sine wave of DNA crystalline and double helix that spins that now faster, like getting sucked into a whirlpool or eddies. And then she just says, once you pass through your stargate or inside out through and through to the other side, the dragon then can breathe and breathe out and creates the fire. The dragon's breath, the cosmic fire that she calls. And I always get plasma ether when she talks about that stuff. But our memories create the worlds, right? We seed the stars, not just the star seeds, but we seed the stars. So I looked up ocean eddies because I couldn't remember what the name of them was. And they're almost always headed west. But by pairing up, they move east and travel 10 times faster. So they literally carry water in unusual directions across the ocean, explained by Chris Hughes, who's an oceanographer at the University of Liverpool. Now, this person found a pair spinning in opposite directions and linked so that they were traveling together all the way across the Tasman Sea in 6 months. And it's called a modon, M-O-D-O-N. And notice modon is moon with the D inserted in the middle, which I already told you. For me, D also represents the spinning planet, but D also is pi, which is M, which is co-creation, etc., which I brought up already, in the middle of the moon. And moon for me is always broken up to MO is the M of Mary Magdalene and the on of JC. And now we have the D in the middle, which is pi, which is sharing equally, Mary Magdalene and JC. And then moving into the Pisces spin. The Pisces symbol is 2 circles, with connecting them with the line, the chord across, like salt. So literally pi is 2 halves, that is the outside of the infinity symbol, and Pisces is the middle of the infinity symbols of the hourglass. So it's when pi and Pisces come together, you get infinity. They looked back at the satellite pictures they had and identified 9 other of these twin eddies back to 1993. And all of them were around Australia, New Zealand, except for one that was in the Atlantic. And this was coming up from Earth.com. They believe when two whirlpools collide, and they are going in opposite directions, the powerful motion causes the nutrients to rise to the surface from the deeper, colder waters below. Interesting, right? Because Himiko is talking about the cold garden, and can transport minerals, heat, water, organism, or creatures to other locations. So when I looked up the eddies in Ocean Spiral, what also came up is something called Ocean Spiral, which is a Japanese project that's supposed to happen by 2030. The Japanese plan to dive and create this city as a living organism capable of living in harmony with nature. A utopian city they call Arcologies. Inspired engineer of Shimizu Corp, construction giant, after imaging lunar bases, floated botanical gardens or pyramid capable of housing 1 million residents. Shimizu has been working since 2014. Again, there's the 14. Oh, wasn't that the same as Adeline? She was born 1914. So 2014 is coming up again on a pharaonic project, a dwelling immersed under the sea, and calling it Ocean Spiral by 2030. A gigantic underwater sphere of 500 meters diameter where 5,000 people could live, work, and entertain themselves in a self-sufficient way. A factory for production and exploitation of the underwater riches, feeding the whole structure. And this is divercitymag.be is the site here. Between 1,500 and 4,000 meters deep, base camps with offices, hotels, labs, and apartments, a small village anchored with gigantic cables, powered by thermal energy by exploiting thermal amplitude of different depths. Okay? So getting power out of the difference between the depths or the nexus points, ambient temperatures about 2 degrees Celsius. The under and they talked about stuff over my head about the pressure, underwater pressure. Instead of desalinates water. It's also going to be a research incubator for them to study because still 75% of the oceans are unexplored. All right, so difference. And again, something in Japan. And as Bashar just talked about, the inside out worlds, right, that are just spheres out in another dimension that have life living on the wall inside the sphere, in the etheric dimensions, not in the physical dimensions. So now, this was the night, not last night. Was it last night? I thought it was the night before. Yeah, well, no, it wasn't last night. It was the night before, I think, here. Yeah, going into the 16th. So, again, the message I had gotten when I went to sleep was Lakon ama sanokanama. And so what was coming up, I'm just going to give you the translations for what came up. Now the difference between the past and present, or nexus point. Fresh, raw, natural, unprocessed, live, and rare. Now I'm going to have a new life. Now I am living in a different world. I am a bit confused. Now in the midst of life, and again, this is from Himiko. Now in the midst of this life, Now I'm living in a world of difference. Now in the midst of this passing of the past, now in this life of difference, I'm living in harmony with nature. Now in this life of difference, I'm living in a simple and peaceful life. Now I would like to name the students who have passed away so easily. Now in the midst of this difficult time, I want to be a part of a class of students who are very kind and lively. Now I want to be a happy and peaceful life with my classmates. Now in the past, I have a lot of students who are looking forward to the new year, who are looking forward to the new life. Now in the midst of this different time, I want to be a doctor who is kind and gentle student. And then I was getting tired, so I was like, all right, I want to go to sleep now. And I get Po Sano, and I look up Po Sano, P-O, and then S-A-N-O, and the one word was difference. And then, of course, I had to put something else in. So then she says, Po Sano Lano Mano, which then translated the difference between the two. Remember, I talked about Second Street, the two path. And then it was the difference between two is that the wood is that the mana, or mana, however you say it. The difference is that the machine is alive. The difference now, right, because now we have machines that can have consciousness. The difference is that between the two is that the machine is alive and well, that the machine is made of Japanese paper. And what is people make things with Japanese. What is Japanese paper figures, Jen? The Japanese paper figures. Origami, I can never remember. So she's talking about origami is made of Japanese paper. And then the difference is that the machine is raw mana, raw something of greatness, and is made of washi paper. I'm a fan of the Japanese paper style and the raw materials used in machines. And then I have to go to sleep now, and I get Nana. And Nana is 7. And then there's some other little stuff that came up. But she said Nakamin, which is inside. And then I said good night. I wrote in there, good night, Nakamin. And then it translates as the 5th day of the month, a nice nap. So taking a nap on the 5th day of the month is a good thing. I said good night, Nakamin. And she translated it 5 OD Nai GHT, which is height, and then inside. Right? 5th day, the human co-creation or show of power of God at the height of this on the 5th of the month. And the 5th of the month is September 5th when I first channeled Sophia, Mother, which was really powerful in front of 100 people that were at the event. So the 5th of the month is supposed to be a good time to nap. It's at the height of your connection with God. Nakaman Seika Nama, the difference in content. And then Wowo Ni La Mi, the difference between the inside and the outside came up. Oh, and lively came up too. Blake Lively came up. The word, something translated lively. Blake, I just watched The Age of Adeline, so Blake Lively came up, and of course she's in the news. So I said, good night, Himiko. Nipi Hano wa. Good night, Himiko. Nipi came up like that. But Nipi Hano wa by itself came up. I am the 2nd day camp. And then 2 days of harmony. I'm just using the same words with different spaces between them. And then 2-day harmony. And then listing number 2, like 2 period, harmony of the factions, the 2nd day. I am a 2-day person, harmony of the factions. And then a couple more little words were coming in, and she was saying, well then, miwa, which is 3 wheels, miwa there. And miwa means not yet, which not yet came up again in something I said earlier, and it came up again. Miwa, okay, and then Oma came up, but then Oma was just translating as Oma. And then Lo Maka was coming up as Omaka. So Oma was being expanded to Omaka, but it's also Maka. And then OMAK is the magic. And then I went to sleep. So depending, it's hard with when you're dealing with phonetical translations because, you don't know whether it's a K or a C and things like that. So Maka, Makha, is magical K in Japanese, and Macha is chattering, and Machi, which did come up as town, but Maki with a K is something great in Japanese, and also it translates to Magaru, which means to bend. So there's that energy of angular momentum. If you look up mana, M-A-N-A in Japanese, it means genuine, beloved, the real deal, sense of admiration and value, and this was all the energy I was getting from Himiko. But I'm not done yet. As then Modon came up, because that's the name of the double eddy. The twin eddy is Modon. It's literally twins, because it's the same thing as the double motors of the two eyes that work as one, right? They work like two shutters as one, working in opposite directions, but as a pair. And then the word, well, I looked up Modon. In Japanese, the translation is back. In Arabic, it was cities, and in Kobarak was bricks. And then I was getting east at the speed of light, right? So the single eddy goes west, but the double eddy goes east at the speed of light, much faster. Not the speed of light, but perhaps, because going underwater, it's much harder to go fast. When two cyclones crash, spinning in opposite directions, when salt meets fresh, the heavier or denser salt goes down and the fresh water is lighter, goes up. Like one eye becomes two eyes, or three-legged race, or drones, how can you hover yet accelerate with extreme momentum? The single eddy goes west at a snail's pace, how the west was one. The twins or couplings go east with God's grace and speed, back to where they once begun, where the phoenix rises in the dawn of day, how the wild west was won, and how the far east was lost or forgotten. To use chakra system, this is all coming from the Wild West, the word and song of the logarithm. To use chakra system and the word and song, base 2. To use picture, horse to be, 1, and new. To use eve or evening and orient, south and east, grace, pleasure. And then the other is the far east, which comes up as Ia's path, right? West is we path and east is Ia's path, which has to do with the branch and steps and taking things step by step. And also is getting the energy of when you fly below, you rise above, all the way to or from or to and fro. Whereas the other side, west, is what goes around comes around, literally. So the eagle sets eve at dusk of night, as in a K night. If Phoenix travels through from pole to pole, and eagle circles around the world in AD or after death days, getting old, in order for them to meet, a shift must take place, causing a crash and burn to rise again, like the age of Adeline. But as one this time, you must enter the storm in order to get through it. Like I said, you have to take that first step for the universe to take over. Or find a hole. You have to step close enough to the swirling eddy to get sucked in. If you don't take a step towards it, you can't go through it. So you get sucked in and through it before you know it. Out the other end to begin again. A twist in the plot with a crescendo that speeds up to then get dropped in the end, like a book, right? You have the crescendo to the peak of the story, and then you get dropped in the decrescendo of the ending. How we like all of our stories or songs. Day after day, the tension, or city of angels, builds until the rubber band snaps, where then everyone, and again, that's the tower energy, and this was on the 16th, where everyone gets tossed around, and where we end up, nobody knows. But You all surrender to it at the same time, allowing the universe to align things without you getting in the way. So you've stepped out of the way, literally. Sumer's or Summer's Eve, right? Sumerian's Eve and winter's last morn. The dusk kicks. The dusk kicks up before the dawn. The planet's blast off of two U's and twin bridges, or that Christed rainbow bridge, the horsepower at the intersection meets swirling eddy as modon, the electromagnetic and direction of travel of propagation. But two of them at the same time. So, like I said, electromagnetic is not opposite, but right on perpendicular axes. So it's interesting to draw that, right? Electromagnetic fields. But then you add to it the slowness of radio waves and the fastness of gamma waves, and you add to it sonar waves, which is reflective waves. You then are literally reflecting the energy of what the cross is, the vertical and horizontal pillars, and then adding reflection of that. So it's kind of like then becomes the six-pointed star. And then it comes up as, right, the Y is the driver, right? The Y in the circle is the driver. The salt is the circle with the line horizontally, and pi is the circle with the line vertically. And so salt is H, 1 to 1, and Y is just Y. And what is pi? And I told you before, it's the letter M. So it literally spells him with a Y. H-Y-M. Salt, the Y, where all road leads home to source. And then on the other side is the pi, the co-creation, right? Where salt meets fresh, something new. Where the old meets something new. The monkey in the middle is the moon key, the mon key for monkey and Monday, the moon key. The key to the car that drives the waves to crash, the engine to turn on, inside out, through and through, like those 10-foot waves that, like when you were little, smashed you into the sand. The energy of the circle of the Y and the square that is the plus sign, that when you combine them together, the circle and the square, which remember I told you the square is the circle because no line is straight, they are arced. And when you put the circle and the square together with the Y and the plus sign, it becomes the dragonfly. The moon of the AST, because, bye, sweetie. Do I know where you? Okay. I won't lock the screen door. So here, the Bashar had talked about that we are going to have a second moon. It's an asteroid that comes in and ends up being our second moon. And so AST was coming up in a different way because it's coming up from east and west, right? East is E, AST, and west is W, EST. So asteroid moon number 2. So 2 daughter moons will mean 2 suns. The channel is the tunnel in a vacuum. The sound of radio waves and red. The arc is the bridge in a vacuum of the color or light or gamma waves and blue. The third is the boomerang, the back and forth in a vacuum, the reflection of sonar waves. So again, this again brings those 3 ideas together. Of the rainbow bridge, of what we can see of the color spectrum, and then what we can't see of the color spectrum. Of the gamma waves and the radio waves, and then the sine wave of reflection of sonar waves. And it's easier to look at through radio waves because they're slower and they look like a sine wave. And I just did it. I mean, when you put them together, all 3 of them, it's a really rough sketch, but it looks like that. Okay? When you combine all 3 directions. The Wild West and the Far East, because the single eddy goes west, but the double eddy goes east and is faster. The eddy and the modon. which reminded me of the monad. So, of course, I ended up looking that up. But the Wild West is the two creators, chakra system and logarithm, or word and song, or the we street of us as humans, right? As we lead our way. How the Wild West was one, carving your own path, or eddy. Whereas the other side is the modon to the far east, where the F, or digamma, or twin flame energy, RAST, a path. The twin flames are a path. The twin flames are Ia's path, right? So we have we street versus Ia's path, or the human or galactic. The EST or AST, which AST is a branch or step, taking things one thing at a time, or having if this, then that. Whereas the other is just carving the path on your own without help as a human. So the monad is a unit of one being, item, or entity from ancient Greek. And this was at this morning at 10:40. The ultimate atom, the unextended point, something ultimate and indivisible. The single individual free from others, not united in a group. A data type or computation along with operations, return and bind. The monadic is pertaining to the monody, or the Greek drama for a single voice, often a mournful song or elegy, a poem mourning the death of someone. A monotonous or mournful noise, a composition having a single melodic line. So something boring. But the monadic talks about single voice, whereas the monad talks about a being, right? It's more of like a noun, whereas monadic is more of a verb. Monode, E, with a Y at the end. And again, when I drew the sonar waves out from the center, because they go out in 4 directions, it makes a picture of the rose. And I had gotten that message of the rose being the example of how the arcs are all plotted around the earth. So today on the 17th is Friday, May Day, which is also the F of the digamma, or twin flame open house, I am, day, which is not only da at the Y in the road, but May or Ma at the Y in the road, both. And thank God it's Friday, which I showed you on my post on Instagram, is 2 capital T's with a little t in parentheses in the middle, or 2 mountains with a little t in the middle of creation. And the first word on the page is t-shirt. I was just talking about laundry. Because when I woke up this morning, I had a laundry pile sitting on my bureau, and the top was just a white t-shirt, and it looked like an elegant lady of white lounging with a hat on. Very interesting. And it reminded me of Himiko. So this morning I went through all of the different versions of Modon, right? Because we have all of the M, D, and N with O's in them. The monad and the domon is child, D-O-M-O-N. It's also the home to build, the cathedral, the family lineage and birth, the house, vault, and sky. To tame or conquer, or in other words, domesticate the child. So that's a version of the modon, or the twin eddy, is the domon. So then just mon again was very significant, because mon was the Japanese currency before the yen in 1870. It's also the emblem of the Japanese family, especially of feudal nobility, typically circular. And of course, anime. It also means husband, and monitor, right, in Chinese. And it means wonder in Danish, mai and hand. In Japanese, it was literally translated as, it was mono in the Edo period, and then it changed to mon. But in Japanese, it meant a gate. Again, the door keeps coming up. Division, school of thought, doorway, exit, entrance, clan, family, kin, a curfew, teaching institution, agony, crest, old currency, a magic spell, design, pattern, writing or something written. So again, moon is Mon, and moon is my JC and Mary Magdalene card. And if you stick a D in the middle, which is the spinning planet that we're on, right? Mary and Jesus' planet, the Christ consciousness planet. But D is also the energy of pi, of sharing equally, and the energy of M, which is co-creation. And it also came up as algae. Oh, here's where it came up, because I looked up all of the MON words. They came up. And that's where lively came up under monter, M-O-N-T-E-R. One of the definitions is lively and mountain. And one of the definitions came up with that example of Mary and Jesus of M-O and O-N, and then adding the D in the middle of the spinning planet, but also came up as algae, blue and green, with bacteria in the middle, right? Because that's what creates the pearl threaded, right? So when bacteria gets into the clam or oyster, it creates a pearl. So but it's the yucky stuff that you transmuted and made something beautiful out of. So notice that Mon is Monday and Mon is month, which are all reset points. Monday is a reset. When you wake up in the morning, that's reset. The 28-day month is a reset with the moon. Okay. All the Mons I was looking at, mono, monument, right? Monument is intention. Your intention. Your reset intention. And then montage and monolith, all of these things were coming up related. To wonder and monitor is MON, okay? My hand man, so of course I said right hand man, monster and reputation of feuding nobility, family or institutional gate, pattern, design, or magical spell, a curfew, a reset, nightly, Monday, monthly, and moon's leap every 4 years. It's called, the leap year is called the moon's leap every 4 years. And then Bashar was just talking about how we tend to reset every 40 years. So every 24 hours, every 4 weeks, every 4 months, every 4 years. So why is 4 important? Because it is the reset time, like the grounding and integrating time. And if you look at the letters MON, M is 13, O is 15, N is 14, which is the pyramid of the Trinity, right? The dimensional Trinity. And it adds up to 42, which is the Two of Cups, 1 to 1, which is pi, sharing, and salt. It's not pi, I'm sorry, it's the salt symbol, but still sharing, right? But salt means grounded, right? Right? The salt of the earth. The 4, the stability. Which notice the pointed 4 is also like the number 7 that's crossed. Can be the number 4. And then the even numbers were all coming up with this because it wasn't just coming up 4, but it was coming up all even numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8. And again, taking me back to breaking up of the infinity symbol, where the outer halves of the infinity symbol are the pi, and then the inner part of the infinity symbol is the hourglass, which is the Pisces, right? The connected part, which then becomes 2 circles with the H. So like I wrote down here. Okay, so the 4, and just the things that were coming up over here, the 6 of cups, the 2 with the 6 of cups, and the 8 is the dance. The 4 is the pi here, the 2 halves of the pi, and then the Pisces in the middle. There's the Pisces symbol. So literally infinity is the 2 combined. And as you bring them back together again, you get the H in the middle, which is salt. And again, so you get the 3 circles grounded by, grounded by source over here. And the number 4 is, what did I write there? Oh, source. So literally the number 4 is the hourglass, but it's open at one end because source is the prime creator, right? It doesn't go the other way, only goes our way. That's the only endpoint is creator, which you'll never see because we can only get closer and closer and closer, but you can never be there. But you can connect to it. So again, the infinity symbol on an angle, infinity symbol on an angle is the number 4. And D is the 4th letter, which equals pi, which equals M, which is 13, 4, which equals co-creation, which notice that 4, 5, and 6 equals 15, and 13, 14, 15 is 4, 5, and 6, the trinity. And then 3.14 equals pi, the word on reflected. And then day is May, right? Not only father at the Y in the road, that where all roads lead home, but the mother. And Mayday. Mayday, Mayday is the code for what? Asking for help. Ask for help. AST is the way that came up in the dictionary because it's like asked. Asked for, the number 4, help came up as the EST on the other side. Remember I told you the energy of East and West and Christ and Ea, human and ET, all coming up with the 4 in the middle, which is the letter D, which is the planet, and the equal sharing of pi between Ea Street and We Street, or the Christ Street, the human side. And then the Rolling Stone came up, which is the EM3W, right? The same letter in different positions. So it's not actually M and W. It's the M now is Man, and the W is Sha, and the backwards E is there exists. So we're talking about the wave, the whirlpool that goes east, but when it twins, it goes west. How the west was one and how the east was forgotten, right? So I put them all together and it came up as eastmost, let's see here, east mists 3 ousts or expels the west. So the messages were coming up as the temple branch, the reset door, there exists a dwelling to dwell. The Shah's grace, orient southeast for pleasure. And then the word mind, M-Y-N-D, which literally means what goes around comes around, as far as image, film, movie, picture. The temple branch mist, and again, like the lions, maybe it is the lions, the dragon's breath. The temple branch mist reset by sitting and just to be in quiet. Shh. There exists the oust of the Shah to be or fly west. East must fly oust, flying oust to west, or east must fly and dwell west. East must. It's like going side to side, right? Once you've gone east as you can, you must go west again. Is the flow of the sine wave and the snake gear that it is. And there really is no east and west, because if we looked at the map in a different way, we'd be on the east in the United States. It's just the way we look at our map, right? So it's all in the perspective of things. And then the chord was coming up as the 3 in the EW M, and then the 3 or the backward E, which is there exists, comes up as the 3. And that was coming up as the chord that attaches source to you. Right? What's the cord called out from the ship that keeps you tied to the ship so you don't get lost in space? That's what I was getting. There exists a reset, east and west, all depends on your perspective. Excuse me. And how we look at the globe or other globes and what the far east is. The east reset door to fly or dwell. There exists a wild west of 2 U's and I am. And electromagnetic planet we go. The E is path on one side, and I was getting temple east and west, which is interesting, and then mid temple, which is the between state, the third eye exists. So one side is the Ea path, the temple AST, which is then step by step all the way to and from a branch, a level, all the way here, or all the way to and all the way from, one step at a time, quantum. It's represented as the dawn reset to go within. And the other side is the temple east, the we path, or where we've been, the east, the we pass is going west, but the word is est. What goes around comes around and becomes a movie, right? In Hollywood, west. The image, the movie, the big picture, the galactic picture. So the humans look at the galactic picture because that's our perspective. But Ia's path looks at the quantum perspective because he knows the only way out is within. And that the temple mid, or the third eye, the between state, exists. Okay? So I guess that's enough for you guys. Where are we? We're at 3 hours and 14. Look at that pie. As we turn 15, it's the devil. Perfect. All right, I got to pull one last card for you guys before I go. And then in my next video, I'll try to incorporate some of the other older messages that I got. Okay, because this was a 3-hour video, so it was pretty long. So I want to go into the journey of love. I love that that ended on pie. How perfect. And hopefully you guys will watch this to the end because you missed all the great comings together at the end. Because it always comes together at the end. All right. For the Twin Flame Collective and for those who are not, to get a message out of this for the best and highest good of all is concerned. What is our takeaway here? Heart fire number 1. And there's the rose again that I talked about, right? Because the rose is the symbol of the heart waves coming together, like twin spins coming together. And then now coming up with for the arcs as well. And the bottom of the deck is acceptance, which came up also, which is 55. That time came up several times. The truth and acceptance of the fairy tale, which Miko was trying to show you. The fairy tale in her garden when she lived, it was true. It was beautiful. And there's the energy of the fallopian tubes and not allowing your femininity to be strangled off. The 29 of the gift that you've been given to be able to have a uterus and give birth and life. And the acceptance of the fairy tale is the underlying energy. And your heart fire, which I'm going to read, the rose. But these 3 also came out, which is the Mary Magdalene energy of the weight of the world. And the 41, the M specifically written out for you, and knowing without knowing. The 62 of the choice, right? You can either feel imprisoned with your thoughts, or you can release yourself and set yourself free. To her grace, reaching out with the star today, right? For healing and gentle. And they're just showing me, this is my t-shirt on the top of my laundry pile. It was just like that. It was an elegant woman, all in like really solid white with a hat. It was very much this energy here. So her grace, right? There's different sides to Mary Magdalene, right? Here she's carrying the weight of the world. And here she's smooth as silk, like the snake. Easy, sensual, right? So going from a more masculine side to the more feminine side in the snake year. And again, releasing your thoughts. The choice to imprison yourself by thoughts or to release yourself. To ease, I want to say ease on down the road. Okay? So this kind of energy, and I'm going to read you the heart fire. And this is basically that burst of the Christ consciousness coming up through your heart. So 1 is heart fire. Let's see. I opened up to page 2, not page 2, but number 2, which is on page 16. Within nothing, there's everything, as we're talking about the 2 path and 2nd Street. So number 1 says, heart fire. Passion is igniting within you. It's not a time when things will remain still, even if the change is only sensed as a subtle stirring underneath the surface of things. Even if slow at first, passion will unfold from within your heart, soon to be burning bright like a sun unrestrained. You're learning how to ride the waves of passion, through eruptions of heat and descent into coolness, bearing the absence of fire, only to realize it is returning to you again. Ride its waves, knowing that passionate bliss will always return to a heart that is on fire with a love for life. The coolness allows us to experience the heat. Once you realize that the fire emerging from within you will ebb and flow, you will trust in its presence. You will realize that whether your passionate fire is obvious, drawing you into life, or dwelling quietly within, gaining power from the deepest sources of your being, soon to rise once more, it is a constant in your heart, or perhaps a constance in your heart. Accept the fire of your heart and know that this is how you are meant to be, on fire with love for all that is. This oracle brings a message for you. Trust the passion and the fire of your heart to guide your decisions now. What would make you feel most alive? Choose that. If you're feeling a lack of genuine passion in your life, take comfort that it is awakening in your own heart now, bringing something that has been long in rest back to life. The poem reads, life unfolds in wondrous ways, and time together fills the days, with unexpected gifts beyond our wildest dreams, like open hearts as feelings start to face the longing when we part. Our souls know this is more than what it seems. In gratitude I offer prayer, with thanks for this love so rare, asking guidance on this sweet sojourn. The answers come in tears that flow, emotions raw, and smiles that show. Becoming one is worth the wait, until I can return. And that's enough said. Rise and be love, you guys. I'll see you next time.